Hello, and welcome to the 34th episode of the Friday Nightmares podcast. I am one half of your hosting team, Heather Powell, coming to you today from Waterdown, Ontario, Canada. And with me, as always, is
Mr. Smokeshow Crawford, coming to you from Swartz Creek, Michigan, United States, Canada, Ontario, Hamilton, Waterdown, Africa, everywhere
Europe,
you can think of. I am just there.
Antarctica.
Antarctica, yes.
So yeah, here we are, 34 episodes into this, and our topic today is games and horror. Would you like to play games, Scott?
Oh, I love to play all the games, like Huff and Gas.
And chicks love to play games too. Scott has a lot of experience with that. But yes, we're going to be talking about a couple of games related films, which I feel like this is time for a shameless promotion of our Controllers Up, Cards Down podcast that we run, that is all about games, that if you haven't listened to yet on the Legion Podcast Network, where we just posted episode 3 with Willis Wheeler, known from Wildman Willis Reviews and NFW Commentary Podcast. And we covered off a lot of different games, and we also talked about Mortal Kombat. So it was a lot of fun.
It was a blast. And yep, I'm looking forward to it's a fun show to do because it's just really quick and easy, and it's one just of my favorite hobbies. Yeah.
Quick and easy.
Yeah. Giggity.
That's our motto, actually. that's our new tag on Facebook. That's what we should change into the profile.
The Friday Nightmares podcast. Quick and easy.
Our individual ones.
Oh,
Tell
our
me
individual
about
ones.
You, quick and easy. We won't stick around long, but it will be very quick. I'm riding on a high because my 2 foster dogs just got adopted today.
Yay.
And DJ, one of the foster dogs, has been wearing a Raptors jersey. Because like one of those doggy ones, obviously not a real Raptors jersey. I don't want people thinking I had this dog walking around in this massive jersey, but one of those little doggy ones. And the couple that adopted him, the male from the couple, is a Raptors fan. So he was very excited, though none of us really want to admit that we're a Raptors fan right now. We're not really doing that well, but that's okay. You can't win a championship every year. So I'm riding off that high, and I will be taking a break from foster doggying since my full-time job, part-time job, and my own personal schooling is going to be picking up. And doggies are a lot of work. I have my own dog and my own things. So I need to have a little bit of a balance.
Yep, you need yourself a little break while you go through all the extra stuff you're going to be doing.
Really, it's just so I can get drunk more. Like, if we're really honest.
I mean, because honestly, we haven't heard many drunken Heather stories lately.
There's been very few like drunken booyahs. There's been sober booyahs. But you can always tell when it's a sober booyah, because it's like, be 3 or 4 O's. Y, and then maybe 3 A's.
Well, and usually it's when it's like something exciting happened from somebody that messages you.
Yes.
But normally, like when it's drunken Heather, it's going, "Hey Heather, how's your night going?" Booyah.
And then there's I's into it too, and other letters, so you can barely decide that it's booyah. Because I've had the puppies, and with these babies, they had some care that was required, medicine and stuff, and I couldn't be completely fucked up doing that because I'm a responsible person. So now that that's done, I can
throw responsibilities out the window.
I can get rid of any responsibilities I had, because my dog's pretty self-sufficient. He's going to be 6 in November, and he doesn't take a lot of work. I can tell him to go back to bed, and he does, but he would wake up the little ones who'd be like, yep,
right,
till I fed them, and then I take them outside anyway. Not that anyone cares about my dog adventures, but I'm just really excited to go party again. Not gonna lie, that's what I'm looking forward to. And I'm getting my COVID vaccine. So for all those people that think I'm an anti-vaxxer, I can confirm I have scheduled my first vaccine for next Wednesday. I'm getting the Pfizer. Yes. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the good old Johnson & Johnson. Hopefully I'll get a Johnson & Johnson later.
But you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? High five.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to be cool as the Moderna boys, but it's all right.
No, I'm definitely not as cool as you on the best of days, let alone. Like, no one makes memes of me, probably because it's like, what do you make fun of her for? Me being drunk? I'd be like, yeah, it's me, right?
Right. Well, And I usually say some dumb shit that just equals meme categories.
You know what? I wouldn't say dumb. I would say funny.
Well, that too.
Like, you are definitely funny when you want to be. Or sometimes you say things that you don't realize are funny, and they're absolutely hilarious. I can't go over the context, but there was one time where we were talking about someone, and you said something like, yeah, that'd be sad if it was true. And I thought it was the funniest shit I had ever heard you say. Laughed for like 20 minutes with just how you delivered that line, because you can do some real, like, honest real talk. You're silent, but you're always thinking, and you're always like putting shit together, which is a cool trait to have, actually.
Yep, and I know when to and who to say it to.
Yeah, you're very good at like social presence and when to say stuff. I just don't give a shit, but you're very considerate and thoughtful with your words. And I'm all like, blah, blah, and hope for the best, right? I just throw a whole bunch of words out and hope they land somehow in a way that doesn't come across as like too offensive or I sound too stupid. But you know what? Life is life. And sometimes you sound like a moron, and I'm okay with that because I can pull it off with my friendly personality.
You are far off from a moron.
That's true. What have you been up to the last 2 weeks, Scott? What has the Scotty Too Hottie been doing?
What are you referring to?
In general, Scott, like, you can share whatever you want to.
Oh, right now you put me on the spot. I don't really think
I've done nothing but work, Heather, and not watch movies.
I mean, it's pretty much what it is. I've been working and just watching movies because we are doing so many shows this weekend that I've had so much show prep I've had to do. It's insane. And
like the most depressing fucking movies too. So Scott got his second vaccination.
Yes, actually.
And what did you watch that day? Because you were feeling a little under the weather.
Well, I was feeling under the weather, so I took the day off because it was the day after the second shot. So I was just like, all right, take my sick day and just stay home. And I was just feeling, exhausted and fatigued. And, what better to, like, while you're in that just kind of blah mood, what better films to watch than do a triple feature with The Girl Next Door, Megan is Missing, and Solo.
Just feel good films. Just feel good, family friendly, easygoing, no gross stuff at all films.
No, and they were all first time watches too. So, and I knew what I was getting into, like, for all three of them to an extent.
Now, you also showed Escape Room, one of our movies we're going to get to somebody this week, a friend. Did this friend like it? I know we'll talk about it later, but...
Oh, they absolutely loved it.
See? That person has good taste.
Right?
It's a good... I'm glad, and this is the same person that sat through Killer Prom with you, right?
Yes.
I'm glad they came back over. Because I felt real bad about that piece of shit. Still, like, I was listening to our prom episode, and I'm like, man, that was a shitty movie.
It was such a shitty movie, but fuck was it? It was so much fun to talk about on the podcast, though.
It was, and you've been out to eat a couple of times. Like, since our last podcast, you've been out to a bar. You've gone out for margaritas and taco pizza or something like that.
Yep.
You did
that
on
Cinco de Mayo. Yep.
You've gone out more than I have, which I never thought would be something I would say. You've stayed up later than I have on the weekends.
Yes, which usually tends to happen.
Well, sometimes I'm just too I'm too fucked up to like actually know what time it is. And
right. Well, I'll say, yeah, you're usually saying goodnight to me, and I'm still usually awake for another hour.
You know what's funny is I did an edible about a couple of weeks ago. So pot's legal in Ontario, everybody, in case you're all like, oh my God, it's legal here. Has been for a while. And I did the perfect amount of that edible. Like, it was, I think I told you about this. It was the perfect amount. Like, it wasn't, because if you have too much of an edible, you have a really bad fucking headache the next day, like really bad, and you feel like garbage. And this was just like the sweet spot. And it's gummies, right? So it does tell you how much is in it, how much THC, how much CBD, like how much you should be mixing. And it was like the magical time. So I'm hoping to recapture that feeling tonight.
Nice. I hope you do.
And I'm going to a bonfire tonight. So I'm hoping that,
Yeah, I was going to say, see, you've been doing you may
fires.
I'll say, well, you may not be going out and about, but you are still living a pretty damn good life, sitting out on your back porch, watching hockey while by a fire at the same time.
I know. Like, so
and knowing you, probably having a few drinks.
Oh, of course you know that. Come on, Scott.
So yeah, you've been having
Of course.
Like, my weekends have been more like, well, I'm inside watching a movie. Like, I would love to be outside by a bonfire.
You're way sober, way too much. That's what the problem is here.
Yes. Well, I don't like to just drink by myself. That's the problem. Like, I don't have, usually I'm not hanging out with anybody on Friday nights, which is like Saturday nights is a different story.
That's
Saturday
not
nights,
true. You went out to the bar a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a rare occasion though.
That's true. It's rare that you go out and have fun.
Yeah, exactly. But no, Saturday nights is usually when my partying phase is, because I'll do my nerdy shit playing Magic, but I'm also drinking or smoking and just it's kind of like a poker night.
It is like a poker night, only not as cool as a poker night.
Oh, way cooler.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Venom.
That's true. That's why you got all them bitches. That's why they're all like, right? Why do you play Magic? And you're like, fireball. And they're all like,
up your ass. I'm going to tap this blue mana.
So I feel like we should have talked about games a little bit, because usually in our intro, like all we did is talk about how I can't wait to get hammered and high. And
well, I mean, it kind of correlates with games, though, especially the games that we'll be talking about.
I guess so, right? And then I made you feel self-conscious about what you've been doing over the past 2 weeks, and then yeah, like it's been a really interesting, fucking 15 minutes of starting this podcast. So anyway, our topic is games, and we have a games podcast. That's probably why I didn't feel the need to go into games, because like we talk about it on the other podcast, and I was kind of like, maybe just listen to Controllers Up, Cards Down, the first episode, to hear Scott and I's experience with games. So I don't want to hear him talk about, oh fuck, I don't need to listen to this like 15 minutes of like, and then I got into Magic, and then I almost went pro, and then I did this, and then I also did video games, and I did, I used to write for Pop Horror, and I did video games. Like, I don't want to listen to that. So everybody go back and listen to our first episode of Controllers Up, Cards Down, and you can listen to me talk about like really interesting things like Echo the Dolphin. And what else did I talk about of interest? I think going to the arcade. That was it for me.
Oh, like, yeah, your experience, yeah. But yeah, like, listen to you just talking shit for me.
The worst part is you're like, I'm so mad, but I can't. I'm gonna write it out later, and I'm
gonna think about it, and then I'm gonna message you later, and you're gonna be like, "What the fuck's this about?"
It's gonna be like 2 days later, and I'm gonna be like, "What the fuck are you talking about, Scott?"
I don't remember even saying that.
I'm like, I don't remember what happened or what I did. But you had, well, I guess we'll get to it. We should probably get into these 2021s, because there's something I really want to talk about, and we can't till we get to one of the movies.
Oh, I know you. Yeah.
Right?
Well, I can say I went to the theater last night,
which was pretty awesome. I think this is your first time back to the theater since when?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. The last movie I went to see in theater wasn't too long ago, was it? Wait, there was a movie that came out around the time of The Unholy. Oh, Godzilla versus Kong.
Oh, you went and saw it in the theaters?
Yeah, I went to see it in the IMAX screen.
Oh, right. You went with your cousin and his wife.
Yep.
Right. Oh, I forgot. Wow.
Yeah, and then coming up in 2 weeks is Quiet Place Part 2. So probably going back to that as well. Are you going to see that? I think I will.
Are you going to take a friend?
Maybe. We'll see what goes on, because you know me. I'm also all about going solo adventures to theaters.
Yeah, it's because you want to go on a date with yourself.
Right? And I'll say, like, you know the popcorn trick that I do on myself?
Oh, man, I miss movie theater popcorn. Eat that fucking shit to my face.
Oh, I had a giant tub of it last night too. And American Giant, so it's like,
well, they say everything in America is bigger, right? Huh? You know what I'm saying?
High five.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God. Yeah. We are in rare form today.
But I thought about what we were talking about earlier, and I was really mad about something. And I'm gonna be careful how I bring this up, because it's just, Dave always goes into rants on Exploding Heads. So Exploding Heads podcast that's available on Patreon. And now I get why, because I'm also mad about things too. And I just want to say that if you make plans with people, follow through with them. I find nothing less classy than making fake excuses. And this goes for like friends. This goes for romantic partners. It makes the other person feel so unimportant. And I just think it's horrible. And especially in friendships. Like, it's bad in romantic relationships, but people don't talk about the pain that comes from friendships from that.
Mm-hmm.
And, this has been a tough year for people. Like, COVID's not been like hashtag good times. And the COVID just keeps on going. Like,
the hashtag good times
over,
keep going.
Right? So I think that it's really important that you value people's time. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're someone that doesn't value people's time, please stop doing that and value people's time. And if you don't stop, and Scotty, Heather's coming for you when the borders open. And if you should have learned anything from this podcast, I watch a lot of horror movies. I can probably get away with it. So
And she listens to a lot of those true crime
oh man, especially now with these
podcasts.
true crime fucking podcasts. I even have another one I'm going to talk about today. It's like a problem. Like it's a straight out addiction that I have. So, and this one is even deeper on like medically how to get away with things.
Oh boy.
So don't fuck with Scotty, because if you fuck with Scotty, you fuck with me. And let me assure you, Scott's a way nicer person than I am. Let me just put that out there now. He's like Barney. No, he's like one of the Care Bears, and I'm like No Heart for all those kids from the 80s. You know that cartoon, right?
I do. But I was going to say, like, I am Mr. Nice Guy, but at the same time, push my buttons too far. You've seen like when I get angry.
That's true.
I mean, obviously it wasn't ever towards you, but you've seen when I've gotten pissed.
It's true. It's like Hulk smash. He turns green. They're actually going to make another Marvel movie about him. Scott's going to be the new, is it Eric Banner?
Bruce Banner.
Bruce Banner. I was like, oh my God, how did you get that wrong? That's going to be, Scott's going to star as a new Hulk person coming out soon. That's going to be his jam. I said smash! Okay, so speaking of exploding heads, I'm going to give a shout out to them because this is really funny. Have you listened to their most recent episode?
No, I'm a few episodes behind since
okay, maybe it wasn't their most recent one. It was maybe 139 or 140. Maybe it was. It was one of the ones that came out. Maybe Dave can say something on our page. But Dave talks about using the washroom and his wife taking, like, not leaving any toilet paper for him. And it was probably one of the funniest reactions I've ever seen Christian and Brandon have to a story that Dave's told. So this is something that they have a YouTube. They do a video and they post it. And if you're not a Patreon of Exploding Heads, signing up for this story is probably worth like the $3 a month. It is the funniest shit I have seen in a very, very long time. So Scotty, I know you're also a Patreon. You got to watch this shit. It has shit too in it. It's just really funny.
I will definitely do that because I think I just finished episode 139, which I will have to say though with that story from Dave's wife not leaving toilet paper. You're probably not one, but that seems to be a thing. The women tend to just leave the roll cardboard.
I have never done that.
Oh,
ever.
It drives me nuts. My ex-wife did it. I go to work. I work in an office with all female coworkers, and yet I am always the one where I see, oh, the toilet paper roll is low. Let me get a new one for the women, so when they come in here, they don't have to worry about doing that.
In my experience, it's always been guys.
Yeah, I was saying it's always been women for me. Like every time I'm like around like a bunch of women, like the bathroom is always just almost empty roll of toilet paper. It's like, why? I think
yet again, with people not completing plans, I think that's one of the most fucking stupid things someone can do. Like, how much of an asshole do you need to be to not add a new roll of toilet paper?
Yeah,
I just think that's beyond, like, I think a 2-year-old could handle that, and I don't understand why an adult can't.
Right, like I can understand if it's at your own home, it's a bit different. But like when it's at a public place, like in your
even if it's at your own home, it's fucking trashy. What if someone comes in to use your washroom, or what if you live with another person?
Yeah.
Or what if you need to like urgently use the washroom and then you don't have any toilet paper?
Right.
It takes like a second to do.
Yeah.
Right.
It takes little to no time at all. And maybe because I'm one of those rare guys that, I worked as a janitor for 14 years. So like anytime toilet paper or paper towel was low, I would always refill it because that's part of my job. So maybe that's just ingrained in me to do. But at the same time, it's just like, it drives me nuts when I see people don't do that. It's like, just a couple seconds, people.
It's because people don't care and they're self-absorbed.
Yeah. They don't think about anyone else using the bathroom. It drives me nuts.
I absolutely hate self-absorbed, not caring or being considerate to other people. It absolutely is a huge bugaboo of mine.
Yeah, and that's I could go on a whole nother rant about like
we have a new podcast. Think that makes Scott and I mad.
Because like I was gonna say, like,
Scott and I complaining. We're gonna invite Dave on. Dave has shit too that makes him mad. Right? This is gonna be 3 of us complaining for 3 hours about shit.
Another new podcast.
New podcast. Dave C, you're on. And we'll just bitch about life. It'll be great. But you know what? It'd probably be like a super well listened to podcast. People like, yeah, that does suck. Yeah.
Like, or I don't agree with that person, but I agree with this one. Yeah.
No, they agree with all of us.
I mean, we do make valid points.
Like, I don't understand. We're perfect.
Right. We are angels.
I know. We are angels brought to earth to watch 2021 movies.
Ah, nice segue.
I got it the second time this year. I've actually said 2021.
So proud of you.
It's baby steps I take. Baby steps.
And it's not even halfway through the year.
Oh, shut the fuck up. All right, let's get through these movies, considering somebody had to do all the heavy lifting. I'm not going to give any names.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm always doing the heavy lifting. Just It's what I do.
You don't even work out anymore.
You see these shoulders?
You don't
these
even do any
shoulders
lifting.
are just like, oh yeah.
Soon I shall replace the Smokeshow.
Oh,
it'll be pow, pow, pow.
You have already replaced the Smokeshow long ago.
It's true. Bow down to my greatness, Scott. And Bloodthirsty, which is a 2020 movie that came out in 2021. This is a Canadian film, which automatically meant I had to watch it. Actually, the truth is I didn't know it was Canadian until they started filming it. And I think I saw like a Government of Canada grant, or like one of those, like, at the beginning, I'm like, shit, this is a Canadian film. It has a 2.7 rating on Letterboxd. It's basically about a young woman who finds out she is a werewolf and the journey to finding out that she is a werewolf. So it is I would say, a new take on the werewolf drama, or werewolf saga, or whatever theme. It has no one that anyone will really know on it. There's a lot of Canadian actors and actresses in it. It is available on iTunes and Google Play. I know you have not seen it yet.
I watched about half of it.
Like, what did you think of the half that you saw?
I thought it was pretty decent. Like, I for some reason I just never went back to it.
Did you watch it by yourself?
No, I was watching it with a friend.
Oh.
And I think that might be why we stopped it halfway through, and like we're gonna watch it whenever she came back over again.
That's why you stopped it halfway through?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yes,
right.
That is exactly why.
Sure, that's why. Okay. I should ask this friend why. Maybe we should, bring her on the show. She'll be like, well, Scott got weird and started telling me about the history of werewolves, and I decided to leave. Yeah. Are you aware that one of the werewolf movies, American Werewolf in London, is actually a very good film? And there's also Hollow and Silver Bullet, and they're really good werewolf films as well. She's like, oh man, look at the time. Oh my God.
And did you know the ancient scripts,
my carpets.
The ancient scripts of lichens back in the day, and
oh yeah, you would be like, I actually want to be a werewolf. She's like, oh, you know what, man, better get to bed.
Want to be a werewolf? I'm already a werewolf.
You'd be like the nicest werewolf.
I'm like mid-change. Rawr. Rawr. Roar.
Be a funny werewolf, Brandon, or like, what do you do all the time? Sleep.
Right? Oh, he transformed. What's he doing? Oh, he's just moving again to a different position, passing back out.
He would just like keep napping the entire fucking time.
Or no, he would be an angry werewolf because the rage inside of him, because being a werewolf would force him to get up, and then he'd be cranky because he's awake. And
he'd be cranky, but he wouldn't eat anybody. He would still just sleep.
No, he'd be cranky and he'd walk outside, look around, and go and go back inside and go back to bed.
Oh, you're giving him a lot of credit that he would walk outside. I think that he would just flip over and eat some ice cream and go back to bed, and then complain that 2021 movie sucked because he's a sourpuss. He doesn't listen to this podcast, so I can get away with saying whatever I want about him. So yeah, some people have mixed thoughts about this movie. It ranges anywhere from 2 stars to 4 stars. I think it's worth a $2.99, $3.99 rental if you like werewolf films. There's no major transitions in it. It's light, but what they do well. And at an 82-minute runtime, you're not going to be wasting your time with it.
Nice. I'll have to try finishing that one.
Yeah, you will.
Just to add to my numbers.
Well, I hope you finished whatever else you were doing. So the next movie is Sweet River.
You are such a shithead.
I'm such a dude. Well, what is stereotypically seen as a man behavior. Sweet River. So this is a 2020 film that, of course, was released in 2021. And it's basically about a mother searching for her son that went missing in a dark town that has secrets. I know this is a very shocking type of plot, and we've never seen anything like this before. It's fine. It's very much a slow burn. It's very well acted. Horror for Dummies. So Tim gave it a 3-star on Letterboxd. Mark Nato gave it a 4. So I think if Mark Nato really dug this, what it's going to be like. I thought it was okay. I don't think it was a bad movie. It just wasn't my type of film. I would say you really got to enjoy slow burns. You really got to enjoy a lot of character development. Not a lot happens, at least not till the end. And even if you look away from the screen for a couple of seconds, you may lose track of what's going on in the story. The story is fairly complicated. So yeah, it's available on Apple, Google, YouTube, and Microsoft Store. And did I say Google Play both Canada and United States?
Nice. Yeah, I might watch this one at some point. Like,
You
if
probably would dig it. It seems like a Scotty movie.
yeah, just something just like because it doesn't sound like it's a bad film. Just sounds like it's okay, and I'm fine with watching okay films.
It's mediocre. Like, it's not bad. I wouldn't be like, oh man, what a piece of shit. Can't believe I wasted my fucking time with it. No, I don't think that way at all. But I don't act that way in general.
Right.
Because I'm not an asshole.
Except for me.
So that's not me. That's not who I am at the core. But it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. It's one that I may watch if I'm looking for something that I'm not.
Yeah, I would say if you $3.99, $2.99 rental if you like the slow burns.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Thinking, hey, look at this. A movie I watched.
Such a poser. You watched one movie. Oh, look at me.
Hey, I watched more than one. There's 3 on this list, Missy.
And this is the movie that is, what was the one last year with her and Kevin Bacon?
Oh, God, what was the name of that movie?
Oh, who cares? Doesn't matter. It's like, it's just, I feel like she's just coming out with these Netflix like or VOD releases now. That's how she's rolling.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll let you talk about this one.
All right. So yeah, the movie we're talking about is Things Heard and Seen, starring, what is her name? Amanda Seyfried, James Norton.
Yeah, that chick.
And Natalia Dyer. It's a Netflix original, and it's pretty much about this couple that moves into this house and they start experiencing like, I wouldn't say like extreme hauntings, but just kind of like a slight haunting for the most part. But it's almost more relationship based film.
Which is like Scott's cocaine.
Yes. And I have to say,
relationship based horror.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, because it's almost more drama than horror. Like it has some horror to it. Like especially like the last act kind of ramps it up a bit, but I thought this was a pretty good film. Like I'm not gonna lie, I thought this was very well acted, very well filmed. Like
I think some of the writing was really good too. Some of the secondary characters were really awesome in this. I think the 2 main characters were fine, but I think some secondary characters were actually really affable.
Yes,
and you really got behind them, and you didn't want something to happen to them.
Yeah, like I just thought all around like this was a good story. Like I think pretty much if you're a fan of horror, even if you're just like kind of like the mainstream horror films, this is something you should check out.
And I think at 121-minute runtime, a Netflix movie, I think you will be at a loss if you do not watch this year. I think that at the minimum, you'll be entertained. And I don't know if it will make anyone's top 10 or 20. And if it did, I don't judge what people do anyway. I don't really care. But I think that it's worth your time to watch.
Yeah, because I recommended it to a few friends of mine, and they came
friends.
Back. Yeah, friends.
What kind of friends, Scott? Real friends?
Magic buddy friends.
You're like, when we're done with Fireball, you guys should really watch this movie on Netflix. I'm sorry. Look, Scott's getting mad. He's like, we're going to end this fucking podcast, Heather.
Or what does my cousin say? Scott, we know you're a big deal. You got dozens of listeners on your podcast. Dozens.
Dozens of listeners. Hey, we have more than 5. I'm happy about that.
I just love that he said that. Dozens.
Low. That's cute. Your cousin's funny.
He's like, I know you're a big deal, Scott. Keep going.
That's really funny. He's got a good sense of humor, huh?
Oh, he does.
That's good.
That's why him and I get along so well.
That's good. That's a really good joke, actually.
But yeah, I definitely really recommend Things Heard and Seen. It's just a very solid movie all around.
That's awesome. I'm glad you dug it. Yeah, and again for Netflix, now sometimes Netflix comes out with really entertaining shit, and this is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and it's not your typical ghost story, I don't think.
No, I don't think so either. I do think it's a little more unique, and it is a period piece, like it's set in the 80s, but it's not like, oh my god, it's the 80s. Look at my closest to 80s. Everything is the 80s. Like I don't find it nearly as annoying.
Yeah, it doesn't like punch you in the face with it.
80s.
Remember this popular song? You're gonna like it because of nostalgia.
You're gonna like it because it's the 80s. And then the next one is Unearthed. So this is a VOD release, and it's very much an environmental film. It is a 94-minute runtime. It was made in 2020, obviously released in 2021. And it has to do with some farmer land that is being dug on by oil companies that dig up something that they shouldn't have. It has a 2.9 rating on Letterboxd. It is a screener that we watch, so it is not available anywhere as of yet. I'm assuming we're going to be looking at the usual culprits: Google Play, YouTube. Possibly this is something that could be picked up by Shudder. It does have a slow burn to it that sometimes Shudder tends to dig. It's interesting with the films that Shudder gets. I've tried to figure out their method of selection, and I think they just look at their categories and they just try to fill things that they think are good enough for those categories. And I do think that this is potential. The pace of it reminds me similarly to the pace of, I think it was The Ritual, where the guys go camping.
Nice.
Not the story, the pacing.
Which I'm cool with.
If you liked the pacing of that movie, you will probably like the pacing of this one. Extremely well acted. Andrea Barbeau is in this film. She does a great job. She's very good.
Yeah, I was like, because I seen the trailer and this one looked like something I would dig.
Yeah, I think you'll like this one.
I wanted to watch it last night, but I just did not get a chance to get around to it.
I think this could easily win an award for me this year on something.
Nice.
Because I think that it was a really well-made film. I think the ending leaves you wondering what's going to happen next, and it creates a very steady feeling of dread. Now, it is an environmental related film, so it does have some environmental horror to it, but it's a solid environmental horror. It takes itself seriously. Like, it takes itself seriously, and it takes what's happening seriously, and the acting is good. You buy into the characters, you buy into these families that have these farms. It's not cheesy at all. It's actually a really well-made film.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll definitely be watching this one probably by this week, because since I don't have any show prep to do this coming week, I'm going to try to play catch up on some of these 2021s that I missed.
You're going to try to meet where Brandon Orlick and I are.
Yes, I'm only 5 away from Brandon, 6 away from you, so I'm not far.
I'm always going to be ahead of Brandon, though, because I'm better than Brandon. Funnier than Brandon. Sleep less than Brandon.
Yeah, you do that, definitely.
Less hair than Brandon.
True. Although his hair he doesn't have much hair right now.
I know, he cut it. Kind of like a sheepdog.
Right.
Right. And then the next one you did watch.
I did.
Yay!
So yeah, you may take this one then?
Yeah. Because, I got to give you when you can, right?
That's right. Give it to me when I can. But the next movie is Initiation, which obviously came out in 2021. And it's pretty much about a fraternity that something happens at this fraternity, and then there's like kind of a revenge tale that goes on.
Revenge.
And I won't get much into the details about it, but I would say this is a pretty well done film. And with I didn't expect the ending twist. And I have to say, like, when that was revealed, I'm going, I can absolutely see that. This could totally happen. Like, everything that happens in this film, like, feels real because of what is going on.
And, there's parts of it that I was like, this feels a little Lifetime-y. This feels a little cheesy. But it didn't take me out of the movie. It's an easy watch. It's sitting at a 96-minute runtime. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It gets to the action very quickly. The way that they portray sororities and problems that exist with sexual harassment or assault on campus is very real and honest.
Yeah.
And for all those of you that seem to be sensitive, that when you see something like that in a movie, it makes you upset. Not upset that you're seeing that it happens, but upset that, like, knowing that it happens. It does. Like, sexual assault happens frequently on post-secondary campuses. I work on a campus, and it does. And it's covered up all the time. That's not fake. But this movie, I think, really does portray how things like this do happen, and don't over sensationalize it. Like, it's part of the story, but it's not I would say the major focus. The major focus is obviously the other things that go on. But I think that it did a really good job of capturing close enough to campus life as it can be. I didn't see the ending coming either. Who I thought was going to be who and stuff I didn't see coming. So it's a nice little surprise. It is available on Google Play, Vudu, Microsoft Store, and YouTube. What would you recommend for a price, Scott, for watching this one?
I'd say this is worth a $5 rental.
Yeah, I
Like,
would agree. It's solid.
yeah,
It's entertaining.
it's a solid film that I recommend pretty much anyone that's trying to keep up with 2021 films. Give this a watch. I don't think it's going to be top 10 material, but I think
No.
it's still a good enough story that you'll really enjoy it.
Yeah, and I just think that it's a good modern day slasher.
Yeah.
For what it is, I think it's fine. I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, best movie in the entire planet, but it's entertaining. If you're looking to just be entertained, it's a great entertaining film.
Yep, and I was saying, like, pretty much since we've done this podcast, like, things like these types of films never really hit with me before, but now they do, because I think I kind of like see through your eyes a little bit more now, like, just because we've worked
Yeah.
together for so long, that I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I have the perspective and the like realness of like, yeah, this happens.
It does. And I think when people get upset by that, I don't know why. Like, it's not saying that you're going to go out and do that. But it's the reality that it does occur and it gets covered up all the time.
Yeah.
And that's not okay. Like, whether it happens to a male or female or transgender person or whoever, it's not okay. And I do appreciate when films face those realities.
Yep, and I've
Right?
learned to respect them a lot more, like films that tackle these subjects way more now, like just from working with you.
Absolutely, right? But yet again, it's an easy watch film. I don't think it's too quote unquote preachy for those of people that are, concerned about that. But do I think it's top 10 material? No. So if you're really trying to limit your list, then you probably don't want to watch this one. The next one is Fried Berry. You haven't seen this one yet, have you?
No, I kind of want to see this one though.
So this is on Shudder. It's a 99-minute runtime. It's basically about a real piece of shit drug abuser. Like, this dude is addicted to heroin, which is a pretty rough drug to be addicted to. And I think it shows, like, they've done a good job of hiring this actor and him acting like he's going through heroin withdrawals and the cravings for it and what his home life is like. I think they did a really good job of that, so I'll give them credit. It's a beautifully filmed movie, but it's a ride. It's like you're high watching this movie. And I think some people are going to love it. Some people are going to hate it. And I think either camp is fine. I sit in the middle. I definitely like what they were trying to do with it. I thought the acting was solid. The writing was solid. I think it may move up more on my list as I sit with it and time goes on. I may rewatch it before the end of the year, but it's an entertaining movie. It really is. I think that the concept is new and different. So I'll definitely give the directors and the writer credit for how they direct and wrote this movie and how the actors delivered it. Sorry. Dropped my phone, everybody. That was awkward. Awkward. But yeah, so Horror for Dummies gave it 2.5 stars. So he wasn't a huge fan, Tim Davis, which is fair. Yet again, like, I wouldn't be like, oh man, best movie I've ever watched, but I wouldn't be like, it was a piece of shit. I think it's just You gotta like this kind of artistic, interpretation of what would happen if an alien took over a body of a drug addict and just kind of lived normal life, quote unquote, through Cape Cod. So and for a free watch on Shudder, I don't think in 99 minutes, I don't think it's the end of the world.
Yeah, and you pretty much sold me with like that type of like addiction and dealing with it, and also like you feel high while watching it. Like that speaks to me, like my kind of films. Like, so I'm definitely gonna check this out.
Awesome. Yeah, you have to let us know what you think of it after you watch it. And then the next one is In the Earth, which is a 2021 film, 107-minute runtime. It's basically about a deadly virus has taken over the world, COVID-19. And there's some researchers that are basically doing some work in this forest, to give a small synopsis of it. If you enjoy isolation horror, so if you are a big fan of movies like The Thing or Black Mountain Side, or Harbinger Down, so anything that happens to have to do with isolation and madness ensuing, then you'll like this film a lot. If you do not like that, you're going to find this film really boring. So I suggest that if you watch this movie, you really do have to be into isolation horror to have a good time with it. It currently has a 3.0 rating on Letterboxd. Most of the people that we watched it have really enjoyed it because it is well acted, well filmed, well made, very good plot line, but you gotta like that slow burn isolation horror.
Nice. Yeah, this is one that I've been looking forward to because it's directed by Ben Wheatley, and he is a really cool director. Like, he's done some really good films. Kill List is one that I've been wanting to see because I've heard so many good things about it. So it's one that I'm going to add to my list to watch soon for a first time watch. But like, I've seen a few of his other films, and yeah, he's just really good. Like his films are very interesting. So I'm very excited to see this one.
So you can find Into the Earth on Vudu, Google Play, DirecTV, Redbox, as well as Amazon. So definitely, I would say, maybe a $2.99 rental, $3.99 rental. If you really like isolation horror, $5.99 is fine. And now Scotty has to share a very exciting adventure he had last night.
Yes. So as I mentioned earlier in the show, I went to the theater last night by myself and I checked out Spiral from the Book of Saw. Now, before I get into the movie, I just want to give my experience. I went to the cheaper theater nearby me, like because it finally reopened. I didn't go to the one that you and I.
Cheap.
Well, I didn't go to the one that you and I went to, the Trillium Cinemas, when we went to see Gretel and Hansel, because I wanted to support this one that's was struggling really bad. Like they didn't actually like while theaters, because theaters have been allowed to stay open this entire time in Michigan since October, I think. They just were not allowed to sell concessions. And since they were not allowed to sell concessions, which is how they make their profit, Rave Cinemas, the one that's near Flint that I go to for cheap matinees and cheap evening ones, ended up like just staying shut down the entire time. And they finally reopened. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go there. I'm going to give them my money. I'd much rather go to Trillium, but I also want to support this little more locally known one. And yeah, unfortunately, I think COVID has done this theater in because it was 9:50 at night. I pull into the parking lot and there's maybe 10 cars in the parking lot on a Friday night.
That sucks.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's really sad. And I went in, bought my ticket, got my giant bag of popcorn, got myself a drink, went into the theater, literally the only one in the theater to watch Spiral, which I love being in a theater all by myself. It's freaking awesome. But when it's a Friday night opening night for a horror film and theaters are, opening back up again, like and able to sell concessions, I was expecting to see a little more of a crowd.
Yeah, it's too
So
bad.
that really bums me out. So I have a bad feeling that this place may not make it through the rest of the year. I'm hoping they do, but we shall see.
Well, and it's in all fairness, Spiral isn't it's well known to horror fans. But I was speaking to another podcaster and I said, are you excited to see Spiral? And he's like, what's that?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I think that, unlike where A Quiet Place 2 might be a better predictor of, or Halloween Kills. I think is Halloween Kills this year.
Yep.
That's the one, right?
Yeah.
I think those might be a better predictor. Not to say that, Spiral isn't a good film. I just don't know.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Also, I think what it is the title.
Yeah.
Like if it was called Saw 8 Spiral or something like that.
Yeah.
Or Saw 9. Like I bet that would have drawn more of a crowd. Plus, Saw is also known to be released in October for Halloween season. Every one of them have been. So I think that's another detriment to it. But I think they just wanted to get it out finally because they were supposed to release last year.
Yeah.
Plus, it would have been competing in the month against Halloween Kills, which would have been a good competition to see since Saw is very popular, so is Halloween. But that's besides the point. But yeah, that's kind of what I think.
I think the title, I think the time of year, and I honestly think
and COVID and just everything.
I went and saw Pet Sematary, the remake, when it was normal times. There was no one in the theater.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, there was a decent crowd when I seen that. I
think it really depends where you live. Yeah. And, Friday night, maybe they were all at a bar, Scott, in hand.
It's true.
Right.
I mean, I'll say things are changing around here.
Right.
But yeah, I'll give my thoughts on the film. In general, the franchise is okay. I've never been a huge fan of the Saw films. I like the first two, and then after that, they just kind of blend together for me, and I couldn't tell you which one starts, which one ends. Blah blah blah.
I feel that. That in my bones.
Yeah, and the story for me is very convoluted, which I've talked about before on the show. But this one is kind of like a side story, if you will. Like it doesn't connect really to the original franchise that much. And
you mean you are not paying the price because you did not take your life for granted, and now you have to go into this ridiculous trap because you didn't tip enough servers at the restaurant.
Yes.
You mean like that?
Yes.
You mean the guy's a complete psychopath that does everything?
Yeah, right.
But that's okay. Anyway, I like Saw, don't get me wrong, but you and I are both the same on Saw.
Yeah.
Okay.
But But I went into this one because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to watch this because I want to support any movie that's coming to any horror film that's coming to theaters right now, especially during COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted to go see this. And I have to say, this is really high up on my list for me. Like, it's probably in the top 3 of Saw films of the franchise.
Nice.
Like, I
Nice.
really dug this. Chris Rock played a very good, serious role. Samuel L. Jackson's in it, does a great job. The traps aren't over the top elaborate like they've been before, where it becomes unbelievable. Like, it's back to almost more simplistic, real types of traps. And yeah, very good story. Like, the story itself, I thought was very, very well done. Twist was predictable, but that wasn't what sells this movie. I feel it is the story on this one that really sells it.
Awesome. Do you recommend a theater watch?
I do. If you can go to the theater to see it, go give them your money, because this is worth checking out in theater. And apparently it's got an IMAX screening. So if you want to go see it in IMAX, do that too, because that would be a pretty cool experience.
Booyah.
Booyah.
Awesome. Thank you, Scotty. So that concludes our 2021 movies. We will be watching more. Hopefully, I will get out to see Spiral soon, or at least rent it on VOD. Theaters are still not open here in Ontario. Sad face. But that's okay. They'll be open by the summer, and I will be able to see other films. So I can wait for a good thing. And now we're going to go and talk about our older movies. So Scott and I are doing a very special episode of Friday Nightmares as a Patreon exclusive at first, and then we'll release it to our regular page with Jay Murphy from Kill the Cast, and it's on uncomfortable films. And so Scott and I figured, well, if you're going to watch uncomfortable films, you might as well watch some real fucking uncomfortable films. And we both watched a Serbian film from 2010. So Scott, I'll let you go first. What did you think of a Serbian film?
All right. So this one is obviously super well known. It's got notoriety. It's infamous for a lot of the fucked up shit it shows in this film. I thought all around really well made movie, well acted. Story was okay. It is more though about the shock value. And a lot of this has been spoiled for me because back when we were originally talking about doing this as a specific episode of films that make us uncomfortable, this was going to be my pick because I had avoided it because of what I'd heard was in the film.
Yeah.
So now that I've got to see it, I have to say it's fucked up, but I've seen way worse. Way worse. And it's, and also Brandon Orlick also mentioned this, but he says, I think the detriment to it, where it becomes like so shocking, is the fact that it's so well made, you know it's a movie.
You know it's a movie. That's the best way to phrase it. And I think I remember listening to when Watson had Horror Corridor, he covered this film.
Yep.
And so I did know it was going to happen. And I'm sure that also, but I expected more from the scenes, and that's not a criticism of Watson's review of it. He did a fabulous job, but he obviously didn't like describe the infamous newborn scene. Yeah. Like, he didn't go into great detail on that. Obviously, no one would. But when you actually watch the movie, it's not really as bad as you thought it was going to be.
No, I thought it was going to show way more.
Yeah, I thought it was actually going to show baby rape. It doesn't. It indicates that that's what's happening. Which I'm glad they didn't show that, because I think that's a pretty hard practical effect to pull off. It was fine. I honestly thought the acting was good. I felt like it was really a movie that was, how fucked up is the porn industry? We're going to show you how fucked up the porn industry could be. And that was the purpose of it.
And I didn't even feel it was the porn industry, sure, but I feel it was like, how fucked up are people getting because they watch depraved shit on porn?
Yeah, maybe that's it too.
That's kind of what I took from it. Like, because that's what's selling, why these things these movies that this company's making is becoming so popular, because people are looking for the more fucked up shit, because the regular shit doesn't do it for them.
They want to up the ante each time.
Yeah,
maybe that's more accurate. I thought it was fine, honestly. Would I watch it again? Yeah, if I had to for a podcast, I would. It didn't really upset me. Like, no, honest. Like, it was fine. Like, it was fine. And I'm not trying to say that the concepts in the movie weren't upsetting.
No.
Obviously, anything that involves sexual assault with children is upsetting, but it was so clearly a movie, and just so clearly, like, it's like how I felt about Cannibal Holocaust, though, even though animals were actually harmed in that. I was like, all right, I get it. Like, shock value. And I've realized what makes me uncomfortable is not necessarily someone being like, are you shocked yet? Are you shocked yet? How about now? Are you shocked yet? Are you shocked yet? I find that just makes me be like, wow, you so cool. So yeah, would you recommend people watch it? I think, as long as you know that there's some scenes that are really sexually violent, very violent. And if that bothers you, don't watch this movie. I don't know. What do you think, Scott? Like, I don't even know whether to recommend it or not. Like, I think it's okay, but I don't think it's a good horror film. I think it's just a shock pornography film.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, well, for one, for me, I built this up probably way too much in my head to be way more shocking than it actually was. So that's probably why it didn't have nearly the effect on me that it could have. Plus, I watched this in tangent with a shit ton of other horror films that are making me uncomfortable.
More upsetting.
Yeah. But if I would recommend this, I would only recommend this to people that have already known about this movie and are curious about it, then watch it. I would not recommend this to your typical horror fan.
No, I don't think it's that horror. It's basically just sexual violence for a fucking hour and a half.
I mean, it's got some horror, like in the third act with like what he's watching on his camera, like some of the things he did before the final thing.
Yeah,
happens.
I guess you're right. It is. I just think I just honestly think that to me personally, I can see why it's in the horror movie category. I just find this look how extreme pornography is. Yeah. Look how fucking dark it is. And that's fine. Like, I could watch another movie and I could say the same thing and say I really like it. I just didn't find it that scary. I just found it like just trying to up the ante of shocking you with each scene.
Yep. And that's why I call it like only horror fans, because horror is where films try to shock you.
Yeah.
No other genre really does that. And I would just say, if you have heard about this film and you've bailed off, I would say give it a watch. Just see what it's like. If you don't know anything about it, don't go on watching this film. Do some research on it first to know what you're getting into. Like that's my caveat for this. Like, just know what you're getting yourself into for this one.
I agree 100%. The second one that we both watched is Solo.
Manja.
120 Days of Sodom.
Yep.
Yeah, it's from the book, right? 1975. This is an Italian film. I believe it's Italian.
Yep.
Yeah, Italian. Manja. It's broken into 4 sections. So it's originally based off a novel, 120 Days of Sodom from the Marquis de Sade. He never finished the novel, by the way. It's a series of short stories that he kind of threw in together, and it was supposed to be a expansion of sexual horizons and sexual pleasures and deviances, which it is.
Yeah. Like, everything about this film is about sex and sexual deviancy.
And to the extreme sexual deviancy. Like, we're not talking 50 Shades of Grey fucking deviancy. We're talking
depraved stuff.
Really depraved stuff. So spoiler warning. We may say something that makes you go, I didn't know that from Solo. So be warned, if you want to watch Solo and go in completely dry, one could say, then you might want to skip over this segment, because I could see it's hard to talk about this movie and not give spoilers. Like, I feel like a Serbian film most people know about, but I feel like Solo is it's really a step up from a Serbian film when it comes to darker films.
Yeah.
It's broken into 4 segments, and each segment focuses on a different kind of torture. The first one is more of psychological torture. You meet the victims, who are children, teenagers, and you see how they groom them, got them, etc., and how they prep them for what's going to happen to them. And then there's a sexual deviant. The second part is more of a sexual deviant of sexual fetishes that are violent in nature or abusive to children.
Mm-hmm.
And then it breaks into bodily functions and consuming of those of human waste.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of consuming of human waste.
Manja.
There's a lot of pee-pee and poo-poo horror. Like, a lot of pee-pee and poo-poo horror.
Yeah.
And to put it simply, if it hadn't been for Brandon and Scott being like, Heather, I don't think you're gonna get through this movie, which they were 100% right. That section, which is 25 minutes of this, was very difficult for me to get through. And I had to think about what was actually they were eating as actors, not what was being presented.
Yeah.
Because it makes me, even when I think about it, it makes me kind of gag a little bit. It makes my tummy turn.
Yep, this film, I have an iron stomach. I can watch some fucked up, nasty shit.
Yeah.
but this one turned my stomach, and I like it didn't make me uncomfortable. It was just more like
It was gross.
this is just vile, and it's just what was the other term that I used? But yeah, it's just I can't remember the other term, but yeah, it's just vile, very very vile, and shock for shock's sake. And once you know the story of the Marquis de Sade, who is a piece of fucking shit.
Yeah, not a good person.
No,
No.
it makes sense why the story is written the way it is from him, but it is still just hard to watch.
And the final segment is basically sexual torture to death. And if people were consenting, you weren't using children, and adults were consenting to do this to each other, that's between adults.
Yeah.
But I think the part that adds that razzle dazzle of trash and uncomfortableness is the children that are exposed to it. So personally, I would never recommend watching this movie.
Nope.
I think if you're interested in, the Marquis de Sade, 100 Days of Sodom, how it was, if you're familiar with the stories, you know what you're walking into, I think it's fine. Like, I think that you know what you're going to see, and it's a movie and that it's not real, but this is what someone's actual fantasies were.
Yeah.
And the fact that they used children or people that were not consenting to that is a little disturbing.
Yeah.
You have to be able to sit through watching people eat poo-poo for a very long period of time.
Yeah. And it's gross. It's absolutely fucking gross. And I knew about this film from years and years and years ago because I have some friends that actually have bought this on the Criterion Collection, which still blows my mind that Criterion picked this up because they are known for their preserving historical movies and things that have an artistic significance.
Well, and you could argue there is with this, but
I don't feel there is, but yeah, I can see that
someone would argue it.
Yeah.
Right. Now there is some interesting storytelling that happens in this, quite literally they have storytellers. And it's beautifully filmed and it's well acted. And the special effects are great because they had to do a lot of practical violent effects. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they picked it up.
I mean, it could be. I mean, they probably have their reasons, and I can't fault them for that. And plus, I think all films, as long as they're not like snuff films, should be preserved.
Yes.
One way or another, and brought into the new format.
And real snuff films, not like a Serbian film, which isn't a real film. Yeah.
Only those can go by the wayside and die.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this was a let's just say rough week and a half, 2 weeks of watching a ton of very fucked up films for our top 5 that we'll be doing very soon.
Yeah. And I personally, yet again, unless you have a historical interest in the Marquis de Sade, in 120 Days of Sodom, and you want to see the brought to life version and from 1975, and you can appreciate it for how it's filmed and acted and all that kind of stuff, then go for it. If what we're describing sounds gross to you, don't put yourself through it. And it's okay if you don't want to. Scott and I watched it. It was fine. But there's still scenes that if we talk about it makes me gag.
Yeah.
It was just, and very few things do that to me. I have a pretty strong stomach. I can handle it made me realize Human Centipede wouldn't bother me at all because I watched people eating shit for 25 minutes straight. So it wasn't, I don't know. I get why it was made. I get the shock value of it. It just wasn't my cup of tea or cup of pee.
Wah, wah. But at the same time, and also, unless you're just a depraved, fucked up person like me, and you're like, you know what? I feel like shit today. You know what I should do? Watch a movie that'll make me feel like shit. Then
eating shit.
And eating shit. Yeah, because that's pretty much what I did. 3 movies, and this was the final film I watched that evening before I went to bed.
What a nightcap, huh?
Oh, that was a capper of an ending right there.
Right. So anyway, more to come in our top 5 uncomfortable films, but this is just a sample of some of the films we sat through that we watched for our top 5. So also thank you to our friends who uploaded some of these films for us. Or able to have copies of them. We have a friend who has a Plex and he owned a copy of Solo, and we're lucky that he let us watch it. So thank you.
So lucky.
Yeah, so lucky. So what we've been listening to, I've continued down my trash of podcast listening, but this one's a little more legit. So this one is called Medical Murders Podcast Series and is hosted by Alison Murr and Dr. David Kipper, and it talks about people in the medical field who have committed murders. Now, here's a really interesting thing. Did you know that chloroform, you know, when you see like where you put chloroform in like a hanky or something like that, and you put it over people's faces and they collapse and they pass out?
Yeah.
That actually doesn't happen. You can't actually make someone pass out by doing that. You would have to hold it over their face for like 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
For them to actually pass out. It's not like you breathe it for 50 seconds. Now, if you ingest it or it's injected into you, it can have more of a serious effect. But just smelling it like that, you don't actually pass out in that period of time. So it's
good to know.
Yeah. So don't use it, Scott, on yourself.
Okay. For that self-gratification evening, I just gotta push it. I'm gonna be in a Serbian film, making my own Serbian film.
You're gonna make Serbian film too. It's just gonna be you chloroforming yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like that's an example of what I've learned, and it just talks about different doctors and nurses in history that have engaged in crimes, and it's really actually really interesting. I really enjoyed it. It's 35 to it's usually to do part 1, part 2. So each episode's about 40 to 46 minutes long, and you can find it on the Spotify network. And if you're interested in learning more about even medical stuff and stuff that we've been told will happen, or how it works when you strangle someone or anything like that, you actually learn like what the actual true impact is. So not telling people to go strangle anyone, but it's just interesting to hear from, we see all these sensationalized kills and stuff like that, what it actually happened. So that's the podcast I brought to the table.
Nice. That's a unique one. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. So the one that I'm bringing to my table, to my table, not your table, just mine.
Just Scott's table, because he's the man.
I am.
So that's why.
Manja. But anyways, the show I'm going to be talking about is an older show that just kind of they basically stopped producing for a while, and they are now back. And I used to listen to them all the time when I worked third shift, and that is Kiss the Goat on the Legion Podcast Network. It's hosted by Cootie and X, and they usually what they cover is different satanic horror films from the 70s and up. I think there's a new episode about to drop, but the one I was listening to was their the Antichrist episode from 1970, and yep, they have a couple different segments, which is The Devil in the Details, which is just like satanic things that have been brought up in the news. So like Lil Nas X with his satanic rap video that pissed off all the Christians. They talked about that. And then his Nikes with the drop of blood in the leather. And they brought up that and had a little conversation about that. They do their movie review, and then they do a Number of the Geeks, which I've only listened to. I can't remember fully, but I think they would always call a fellow podcaster and have them watch the movie they're talking about and then give their thoughts on it. And then they have the Ask the Goat, which is basically fans of the show can ask them any questions and have a good discussion. But they're male female podcast, so it's another one like us. So yep,
there can only be one.
Well, I was gonna say, and they kind of their report kind of reminds me of us and how we get along. And,
unacceptable. It's bad enough that Matt and Kate thought that they could start one, right? I'm pretty sure that Dan and Lacey and you and me had the monopoly.
I know, right? This is bullshit.
Absolutely. No, it sounds I'm happy to hear more mixed gendered podcasts. That's wonderful.
Yep, and they've been around for a very long time, because I think this is the episode I was listening to is episode 52 now.
Awesome.
Yeah, and yep, they are back, which makes me really happy, because I think they also did a crossover with Cinema Psyops back in the day, where all of them were on together and reviewed The Exorcist, which was really awesome.
Nice.
But yeah, I definitely recommend checking them out. They can be found on the Legion Podcast Network, Spotify, any podcaster app you can think of. Pretty much just available everywhere. I would say recommend go check them out.
So are you saying to subscribe to the Legion Podcast Network?
Yes, because Legion, we are many.
So we're going to take a brief break, and we're going to hear from one of our many Legion friends. And after these messages, we'll be right back.
I'm Cootie.
My name is X.
And I'm Chef Al, and we're your hosts on the Kiss the Goat podcast.
On our show.
Welcome back. As we talked about before, our main topic is games and horror, and not mind games, actual games. So I found a history of games article, which is kind of cool.
It's from Kotaku too, which is awesome.
Oh, have you been to the site before?
Yep, they are a very well-known video game website.
Oh, cool. So if you go to this article, you'll see a chart that kind of outlines the history of games. But I'm going to give a brief overview of when we started doing this social gaming kind of thing. So the most ancient games have been found in archaeological excavations. Senet was a game placed in ancient Egypt in roughly 3000 BC. The earliest set of dice, which represented likely streaming from the early concept of fate and divine figure, which emerged from the soothsayers who forecast the future from the casting of bones, was found in a backgammon set. At the same time as these early board games are being created, people were playing sports. It seems likely that sports have an origin deep within prehistory, but one of the earliest recorded sports was polo, much like backgammon, has its origins in ancient Persia. Polo was originally designed as a way to develop military skills, and somewhat later, early ball games like Esprescos and Harp Pass Tum were played, which later gave rise to the medieval sports such as shove-tide football, a forerunner to the most contemporary football sport. So we had one game that developed into another game, and so on and so on. Chess may have been originally thought of as an abstract military conflict used to teach military strategies to generals. Over the years, it grew in popularity, and during the Enlightenment stage was thought of a way to train the mind. Benjamin Franklin wrote a famous essay called The Morals of Chess, which he believed taught caution and foresight, similarly to other games that had begun to emerge that were designed to teach moral values, including Leela, a game from 16th century India, which was the model for the modern game Chutes and Ladders. Also, during the Middle Ages, one finds a profusion of card games, starting with tarot cards, originally intended for use in games, although they later became associated with fortune telling. Games of chance with luck seem to be associated with the development of the occult. 1974 was perhaps the most important year in modern game history. This is when Dungeons and Dragons came to market.
Oh, nice.
It integrates the ideas of abstracting tactile combat along with storytelling and a unique social aspect in which individual players use their imagination and creativity to contribute to ongoing gaming. From D&D, you can trace a history through mainframe computer games to MUDs, multi-user dungeons, to more PGs, so MMORPG. How would I say that?
Massive multiplayer online role-playing games.
So such as World of Warcraft. Meanwhile, many people were looking to engage in asynchronous gaming that wouldn't require groups to gather at set points, giving rise to play-by-mail games. The earliest implementation of online PBN games, aside from their manufactions as play-by-email games, were BBS door games. Trade Wars is probably one of the most famous, and this author had talked about Space Empire a long time ago as well. A lot of these play patterns are similar to what you find in current web-based and social network games. And over this entire period of time, board games were also getting more complex and developed to certain things like the Settlers of Catan board games.
Nice.
Games that originated emerging in the hobby gaming market, such as Magic the Gathering.
Nice.
Laid the groundwork for virtual economies by showing the elements of games could be collected, traded, and derive value from the intersection of their sacredity and utility. Most early gaming business, such as Magic, built business models around subscription rather than virtual goods, which caused secondary markets to emerge for trading in items. Today, many games in the free-to-play have turned this on their heads by making virtual goods the way the game publisher monetizes or makes money. This has become a good way to attract players and monetize attention, and this has become the business model of current social network games, which I think is really cool. And then they talk about Foursquares and Music Pets as examples of that. The current social network game market is confluenced of several big trends. Social gameplay, along with asynchronous play patterns and virtual good business models that have been shaped by market forces. We're only at the beginning of seeing how far we can take the genre. It's my belief that the next wave of games will draw upon many elements we've seen work in the past. Great storytelling, challenging decision-making, and a sense of tribal belongingness that surrounds popular games. And I think that's 100% true when we look at games like D&D and Magic, about the creating the kind of like a partnership or a community of people that play. Like we just, on the break, we were talking about how you're going to play Magic tonight. And this is something that you do weekly.
Yeah, I'll say it's kind of like I was saying earlier, it's kind of like our poker night. Like, just something like, but while the game is absolutely fun, it's all about the socialness, like having fun. Like, and when I used to try to play to go pro, like I would go to these big hobby shops and be playing with all these different strangers, and you'd make friends just because you're as you're playing, you're talking. Obviously, some were super competitive and took winning or losing way too seriously and were dicks, but you would also meet the people that are just happy to be there, meeting new people, playing the game with someone else that loves the game as well.
Now, the interesting things about the games we're going to be talking about today are they're supposed to be one-off games. Though they're not the social development games that Magic would be, but I would argue that they became social development games and created a community within each of these horror movies.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, every one of these games that we're going to talk about have a social aspect to them, because a lot of them derive from drinking games or partying, besides one of them. But that one is team-based, where you have to work together as a team.
Right. So why don't we break into our movies? So we've chosen 4 movies. Luckily, these were all good movies this time.
Right.
That we get to talk about. So I'll let Scott lead us off with our first one.
All right. So the very first film we'll be talking about today is Would You Rather, which was released February 8th, 2012. The synopsis is Iris and 7 other desperate people become trapped in Shepard's mansion. Shepard forces them to play a sadistic game for a large sum of money, but the dilemmas become increasingly deadly. This stars Jeffrey Combs and Brittany Stowe. This is one of those, like I was saying, kind of like the drinking games, like, oh yeah, would you rather save Heather from a fire or save 5 screaming children from a car wreck, blah, 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 like those types of situations.
Save the kids.
Yep.
I'm going to come back. It's Freddy.
Yeah. But it's kind of what this plays on. And I honestly think, like, because, when we talk about these topics, we focus on the theme. And this one really focuses on the game.
Very much so.
Like, the choices that Jeffrey Combs' character Shepard ends up giving these people start off kind of like they're mean, but like one of them was like talking to this guy that's an alcoholic. He's like, to start the game off, before we even do Would You Rather, I will give you $10,000 if you drink like half this bottle of Fifth.
And he's
sober for 10 years.
Right.
And so
he's testing people's morals.
Yeah, he's testing how far they were willing to go for money. Yeah. And then, of course, the games get mean once he goes to Would You Rather. It'd be like, hey, would you rather get electrocuted yourself or electrocute the person next to you? And then it just gets meaner and meaner and meaner. And yeah, like this one is one of those where it's like, it really pushes how far you will take your morals.
It really does. And the setup for the reason why everybody there is good. Everyone is in a financial situation that they need the money. So our main character, her brother needs healthcare, which this could never happen in Canada because it would have been paid for.
Yeah, this was totally like an American dilemma right here.
I just had to throw that in there. But
I thought of that when I was watching it. I'm like, yeah,
Heather she'd never be there.
Right? Yeah, Heather probably going, this is so foreign to me.
And that's it. But I do appreciate that setup of it, which is, and we see the one character coming for that reason. She's picked for that reason. So obviously Jeffrey Combs' character, or Shepard, picks people who are weak,
weak and desperate,
are in a situation where they are in the have-nots, and that they need whatever he has. So his two moral dilemmas of, you know, offering Brittany steak for $10,000 and she's been a vegetarian.
Yeah.
She eats it, which he was like, oh, and he's a real dick, right? He's like, I can see your morals don't mean much to you. I would be like, dude, it's the fucking piece of steak. Like, let's like calm our shit, right? The recovering alcoholic, you know, he declines at the first $10,000 and then he has to up it to $50,000 to drink it.
Yeah.
Scotch, right? So, you know, the ante continues and he does give them a chance to leave. He said, oh, it's a simple game of would you rather. Now, honestly, Scott, if you had sat there and watched these two, you know, someone's a vegan or vegetarian, someone else is an alcoholic, and this guy's making real condescending comments to everyone after they do the dare or choose to do the, I shouldn't say do the dare, do whatever it is he's asked them to. Would you stay?
No, because I would look at that and go, well, especially like the whole steak one to be like, okay, that's just some meat eater being a dick to a vegan. Okay. But
Yeah.
like the one where it's the guy that is a recovering alcoholic that's like he's forcing him to try drinking again, I'd be like, oh fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah, like I would be, but what we've done though with the setup is that we know that these people have no choice, right? That they are in a situation where they're willing to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
What did you think of the first game, which involved the electroshock machine?
I liked this round of the game because it kind of showed you who was in it for themselves and who was willing to, you know, take it for the team. Like you could see who was basically see where people's morals lied.
Yeah.
Like, because obviously you had like I forget like the character's name, but you had the one guy, and then he was like, oh, and you could electrocute the girl, and he's like, all right, I'll electrocute myself. He's not going to do that to the girl. And then it goes to the girl's choice, and she's just like, fuck that, and electrocutes him.
Yeah.
Like she does. She's like, nope. She's like, I'm in it for myself. I'm like, you could tell right away where she stands.
Yeah, she definitely has a darkness to her. That whatever reason she's there for, she's obviously very desperate. Her name's Amy.
Yes. Yeah. And then it keeps going around the table. And yeah, you can see there's even the ones that are just like, you know, trying to like reason with each other, and they're trying to talk about it. And like, okay, you've already been shocked once, you know, let's not try to do that again or blah, blah, blah. Like, I like that first round of games because it's like, I'm watching them going, all right, that's mean, but it's not horrific yet. But like the next couple of games is where it starts getting pretty nasty.
Oh, it gets real dark. Shout out to Rob Wells from the Trailer Park Boys.
Yep. Ricky.
Ricky. I thought that was really cool that he was in there. I think you're right. I do enjoy the choices that they're given of who shocks and who doesn't, right? I think it was also with an IFC film, you know, didn't have huge budget. I thought that it was a smart way to kind of simulate being electrocuted. Like it's easy special effects to do.
Yeah.
And it involves the actors to just, you know, simulate what they think electrocution would look like. Maybe get them some capsules in their mouth so they could foam at the mouth or whatever, you know, you're able to kind of recreate it. And then, you know, it goes to a second round and we have the stabbing. And what did you think of that?
Yeah, this is where I was like, man, this is the getting to the dangerous point, obviously. And like, once again, like I liked a lot of the characters' reasonings with each other. Where it came to once again, you could see where everybody's morals stood, especially when it went to Ricky and the older woman that was paralyzed from the waist down, because he's just like I understood his reasoning, and it just sucks what happens. But like, you know, he's just like, you know, you won't be able to feel anything. So this like,
but he
as long
hits
as I
a
can do
major
this,
artery. Yeah,
yeah,
he hits a major artery. Yeah,
yeah, and he ends up killing her, and like you can tell that he just feels absolutely horrible that he had done that.
Yeah,
like, and that's why I was like, that's another thing to that character, to that actor, because like, yeah, like he's definitely not Ricky in this situation.
No, and I think Peter, you know, shows that he actually cares about the other people that are there. Same with, I believe it's Travis.
Yeah, because he's the one that gets really
Travis gets badly injured. It's you know, and the lashing and the whipping. Oh my god, like it's really, really fucking hard to watch, to be honest with you. This is where it gets really dark, and the game you kind of feel like people are stuck in, because we know that Conaway, who was the recovering alcoholic, was shot when he tried to leave.
Yeah, once they basically said we're staying, they're fucked.
So I think what the movie did a really good job of is increasing the would you rather. So, you know, when you start off with a game, you usually start off quote unquote the easy round.
Yeah.
So maybe you ask questions like, oh, would you rather, you know, have a Boston Terrier dog or a Golden Retriever.
Right. Something like that.
It doesn't
Yeah.
really matter. And then it comes down to, okay, would you rather cut off your hand or cut off your friend's hand?
Yeah.
Right? Like it gets like real fucking nitty gritty on what you're actually going to do. So I think that they did a really good job of kind of illustrating that. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of this movie. I think it's okay. I think it's entertaining, but I found it, I don't know, I found it all right, right? Like I think their escape attempt is unnecessary. I feel like it kind of dragged out the movie a little bit for me. And it kind of moves it away from the game. Personally,
it does, though. It gave me pleasure to see that be a reasoning to get Jeffrey Combs' son killed.
Truth. Jeffrey Combs is really great in this too. He does a really good job of delivering.
He is such a sadistic bastard in this, like that plays that like highty-tighty rich person that's just there for his own amusement.
Well, and very entitled, right? And very much feeling like he's allowed to do whatever. What did you think of the barrel situation? And then like the choosing of the cards, and then of course how, you know, how the Amy has to stay in there longer.
Yeah, that one is where it gets just really fucking hard to watch. Like when it gets to this, like flip the card over or try to hold your breath for 2 minutes in this barrel, that's where it gets really tough. Like especially for poor Amy, because yeah, it's like, okay, you got the option of flipping the card over or choosing to hold your breath for 2 minutes. I'll take the card. Oh, it's 4 minutes in the barrel. You're fucked.
Right.
And like, yeah, like these situations, like I forget the guy's name, but he has to like freaking cut out his slice his eye. Oh, that scene was so incredibly difficult to watch.
The being submerged in a barrel for 2 minutes. And then the alternative of like required to light a firecracker in your hand, and then slitting your eye open. Like both of those I think are worse than going in a barrel. Like both of them are shitty.
Yeah. Well, then what was the main character's Iris? Hers was like she found out after she decided to
have all of her teeth extracted.
Yeah.
And she chose the barrel.
Yeah.
And she just makes it, doesn't she?
Yep. Yeah. She just like she's almost about to drown when like she gets the 2 minutes is up.
Right. The 2 minutes
is a long fucking time.
It is a long time. And then Amy chooses 4 minutes, which is fucking shitty. And then she dies. So she was kind of a shitty person.
Yeah.
I found where this movie lost me is when Iris and Lucas are the only two people left. And he starts to talk about his life and his sisters, and she just shoots him.
Yeah. I know the only reason I think she did it is just so she didn't have to hear that story, because if she heard that story, she wouldn't go through with it.
Right.
So like, so I think she was just trying to be like, stop, just please. Then like, because obviously like, I think I would have been like, you know what, let's get the fuck out of here. Because I think that was the option, wasn't it? You two can leave with nothing, or one of you can leave with 10,000.
No, I think like one of them
million?
had to leave. It's given a choice to kill Lucas and win the game, or spare him. Oh yeah, which would result in them both walking away empty-handed.
Yep, which is what I would have done.
Yeah.
There's no way I would have been able to kill them.
But would he have actually let them leave?
That's a good question.
Because they wouldn't have had taken the money. Because if you take the money, it's a bribe. You committed murder. I have that over you. You go to the police. I'm going to say you committed murder.
Yeah, that is a very good point. Like he probably would have killed them.
So I find that if we look at the game, Would You Rather, I think this is a really good concept for a movie. I think the 3 rounds, you know, with the final round being round 4 between Iris and Lucas, really do question moral dilemmas. They question how much you can make a decision in regards to pain in a quick period of time, and how they each escalate. Like how you start off with the water being warm, getting hotter, and then getting to the point that it's boiling. So I think this movie does a really good job of that, with the exception of the escape scene, which I guess they put in there because, you know, then people would be complaining there was no escape scene.
Right.
I think they followed the game well. I think that the rules are laid out well. I think the movie is well shaped along the game. I think it's a really good presentation of this parlor game.
Yeah, like it's obviously like to the extreme, but like that's what you want in a horror film. And like that's focused, like its main focus is on the game. Like that's pretty much what the whole premise of this movie was set up to be. and they stuck with it. And yeah, it's like you said, it's one of those games that's perfect for a horror film.
It is. And I think that all the characters did a really good job in it. Like, I think that everyone was quite believable.
Yeah.
As I said, it's not my preference, but I don't think it's a bad movie. I just don't love it. But I think Jeffrey Combs is great. He plays a real piece of shit.
Oh, he does. Yeah, like he plays like sadistic, gleeful rich man just so well.
So if you were in this game, okay, and I said to you, you had to shock the person beside you. So let's say it was like our podcasting friends, and you had to shock one of the podcasters that we would consider a friend beside you or yourself.
I would shock myself.
Yeah, I probably would do the same.
I would not. I could never cause harm to anybody else.
The only reason I would shock someone else is if I had taken a lot of shocks and they were like, Heather, just shock me because you won't survive the next one.
Right. Like if that would be like the only situation that would happen.
Now, in the water situation, would you choose hold your breath for 2 minutes or would you flip a card over? Now, you don't know what's on the other side of the card. You just know that things have been getting progressively worse. We went from asking someone to eat meat
to slice out your eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be taking the barrel because, like, as we've seen in the movie, anyways, every option on those cards is fucked up.
It's worse.
Yeah, like I'd probably die because I probably don't think I'd be able to hold my breath for 2 minutes, but I'd rather do that than put myself through whatever the other torment would be.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I would agree with you. I think I do the exact same. And you already said that you wouldn't shoot the person.
Nope, I'd be like, let's get the fuck out of here.
I would shoot them if they were a piece of shit and they had hurt and killed other people. I might take the money.
That is fair, yeah.
All right, but
yeah, like in that situation with those characters, no, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, no, good point. Good point. All right, should we move to our next one?
All right, so yeah, the next one is Truth or Dare, which was released October 8th. Hey, my birthday. 2017. This one, I'm not sure I don't think it was a Netflix original, but it can be found on Netflix.
I don't think it didn't have a theatrical release.
Yeah, so it might have just been a VOD one because it didn't have the whole
the
Netflix
distributor
logo.
was Sci-Fi.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, because obviously there are multiple Truth or Dare movies, especially like coming up. But 8 friends decide to spend time in a haunted house and play the game of Truth or Dare. Their decision leads to a night of horrors and regrets. Yeah, this one is where they take a game and add a supernatural element to it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very messed up Truth orAre.
Mm-hmm.
And one that likes to change the rules a bit of Truth or Dare too. Like, what is the rules? After 2 truths, you can.
Oh, you're messing up the 2 movies. That's Blumhouse.
Oh shit! Yeah, I had a feeling this might happen.
This movie was based upon a group of college kids, as you said before. They go to this house, and this guy's a big YouTuber, so he's going to film them being in this haunted house. And he says, "Okay, I'm going to write a whole bunch of dares and truths. So you pick the card; it's either a truth or it's a dare." And the truths start off being really fluffy and fun at first, and then the cards start changing. So, for example, one of the cards is asking a girl if she's ever slept with her best friend's boyfriend, which she has, and they haven't told the best friend that. And then it comes out, and they accuse this guy that's a YouTuber of, setting up these cards. And then they get darker, like stick your hand on a hot stove.
Yeah, and eat the flesh from that burnt hand.
Right? So it begins to escalate, and then they realize that Carter, who's the one that organized the outing and is a YouTuber, has nothing to do with these cards, that the cards are coming from a supernatural entity that lives in the house, is what we're believing. Now, it starts off earlier in 1983. We see one young lady, and you see her friend die, and she dumps acid on herself.
Yep, and she puts
baking powder and
wet baking powder
and
coat
water,
on her face.
Yeah, to try to do the dare, right? So then it flashes back to modern day. So they've heard all about. They're going there because they heard all about this haunting that happened in 1983. They get told by the TV as they start arguing about the cards that, so an old-fashioned TV displays a warning that says the group has 48 hours to complete 3 rounds of the game. They try to leave, but the doors and windows open and doors and windows close, trapping everyone inside.
Yep.
Right. So that's where we have the guy that puts his hand on the hot stove, and the special effects for that were actually pretty good because he doesn't want to do it, and then he gets forced over to the stove. The girl that eats the flesh, she eats some of it, and then the old-fashioned phone rings, and they pick it up, and they're like, "No, you have to eat all of it." And we're making it sound like this is a cheesy film. This isn't cheesy.
Well,
This is probably better than the Blumhouse film.
It is. I'll say it's a cheesy concept because it's a supernatural entity just like doing like the whole calling up 7 days type shit. But at the same time, like it sounds cheesy, but it's not.
And the acting was actually pretty good.
Yeah, and I was saying it has Guillermo from What We Do in the Shadows, which just made me smile.
I thought the characters, and you got behind them. You actually didn't want anyone to really get hurt or die.
Yeah, like they all were likable characters. I think there was one that was kind of a dick, but he even turned around a bit. That was the one that I can't remember if I'm getting this confused again, but was there the guy that was going to college? Like they had that lawyer interview. Was that in this movie or was
No, you're missing out the two movies. So in this movie, after we have the flesh-eating dare, so these dares are all on cards that they're reading, right?
Yeah.
So another card for our buddy that played in I can't remember his name now. What was his name in here? Was it Holt? Holt gets told that he has to grab live wires, and they're like, what wires? And then a chandelier falls and the chandelier breaks and these wires are there. So they're able to kind of figure out that, okay, you grab the wires and then Carter, who's, you know, this superstar track athlete with a blanket, is going to knock you off the wires. And if we have to, we'll give you CPR, which they do. They manage to survive that dare. So they begin to learn that they need to work together to get through dares. Then there's one where the all-star baseball guy has to have his knee smashed in by a baseball bat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And then one of the girls, I guess she was in a car accident, and one of the things is tell the truth. And I guess she was addicted to pain medicine, and she keeps denying it and denying it. Like, no, you got to tell the truth. If you don't do the dare does you, is the big tagline that's used in this film.
And this is where I got it confused with the other one, because there's kind of a correlation with the other character in the other movie.
There is, only it's just cards that you see, and it's just writing places. You never actually hear the entity speak or anything like that, which is different than the Blumhouse one. It's just card stuff. So eventually Addison tries to leave and she gets killed. And when they go and they report this to the police are like, well, this just sounds like a suicide thing. Like, you guys did a suicide pact and we're playing a game that got too dark and shit happened. Right.
Yep.
So they do leave. And when they go back to their dorm room,
I think it's Carter that gets messed up in this one.
It's Carter that gets messed up because he had feelings for the girl that killed himself, and he gets hung.
Yep.
So because the dare is for him to hang himself. He doesn't want to do it, so then the entity hangs him purposely.
Yep. And yeah, this one, like, it's interesting because the entity is like forcing this stuff to happen to you, like whether you want to do the dare or not, the dare is gonna happen. And
the dares start off being pretty, like, you only get two like little truth ones that are like ha 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 that were written on the cards, and then they all get dark.
Yeah.
They're either exposing really dark secrets of, I slept with someone's boyfriend, I have a drug addiction, or making them grab live wires, or, you know, and then you find out later that the dares are supposed to be their undoing. So ethically, what they've done of wrong stuff. So I'm going to go through some of the characters here because I thought that was a really good call into the truth or dares, right? It was making them kind of face their demons.
Yeah.
So the guy that was a star athlete, he gets dared to rob a gas station because he always has to win. And of course, he goes in there, he tries to rob the gas station, he ends up getting shot by the clerk.
Yep. And then like, I like that concept, and I like that because they end up talking to the survivor from the 1983 incident.
Yep.
And you find out that
Donna.
Yes. Yep. Which is played by Heather Langenkamp.
That's right.
And but you find out that these dares can be done as a team.
Because the dare is not, except for put your hand on the hot stove or what is the secret you're keeping. There's some that are done, like they're truth ones or ones that are done individually. But then as the dares go on, there's times that you can share it.
Yep,
share the dare.
But at the same time, like, as that, like, the supernatural entity, I think, kind of figures out what they're trying to do, because then he starts pinpointing like specific dares for each person that only one person can do.
Right. So then there's one with Holt's character where he was involved in a hit and run. And the dare that he gets is get run over by a car.
Yeah.
And they try to just run over his foot, but then the entity takes over and completely runs him over.
Yep, because they have a certain amount of time to complete these dares.
Yeah.
And when the time runs out, then you're fucked. And the entity will do it for you.
And then there's one about, like, oh, my favorite, though, I thought was really smart here, and I thought about it afterwards. When they originally get to the house, so we've kind of jumped ahead, we're going to jump back. So the one that dies is Carter, the rest of them, and Jesse in the robbery and in the hanging, respectively. And then the rest of them, so I would say the other 6, show up at the house. They go back to the house because that's where they need to complete the game.
Yeah.
And they get there and they walk up, they are like, drink it all or something like that. And it's a glass of quote unquote poison.
Yeah.
Now, I could never get why they said poison, because I'm sure looking at that glass, what did you think it was?
I couldn't tell what the
It
hell.
was antifreeze.
I was gonna say, like, it looked bluish, so I was thinking maybe antifreeze.
Yeah, it was definitely antifreeze. But what was smart, and I think they did this so they didn't get sued, is they said poison because then the guy that was that was going to become a doctor was like, what we're going to do is shotgun sodas that will coat our stomach and then allow us to vomit up this material, like what we're drinking, the poison. And they probably didn't want to say antifreeze and have a bunch of dumbass teenagers chug Coca-Cola
And try it.
and then drink some antifreeze to see if it will coat their stomach, soda, quote unquote, and vomit it up. Right. So I thought that was actually really smart of the filmmakers.
Yep. And well, I'll say the smart on the filmmakers and kind of a smart move with the characters too.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't think that would actually really happen. I thought it was more the filmmaker smart to be like, it's poison, because he sniffed it. I'm like, it's poison. I'm like, how the fuck would you know what poison smells like? And then I'm like,
That's true,
antifreeze. And then I'm like, oh, I get it. They don't want people like thinking that this is a way that they can survive drinking antifreeze. You know, we got people that eat Tide Pods for fuck's sake. So like, you know,
we got
have
people
to be...
that. And we also have people that put gas in plastic bags. So
yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we got people that do some really stupid shit. So I thought that was really smart on the filmmaker's part. And then there's abstracting of teeth that needs to be done. They have to play a game of what's that game with the gun?
Russian roulette.
And then finally at the end, the 2 girls, so the one girl that, you know, her boyfriend slept with her best friend, they're the only 2 left alive, and they have to get 7 body parts between the 2 of them. So they start off smart. They start off with hairs and fingernails, and then they have to break down to fingers and toes.
Yeah, she tried skin, but then the entity basically said whole parts, and that's like just a piece of skin isn't the whole part. You'd have to flay your whole entire body.
Yeah, right. So it's actually a really solid film. The dares escalate in each round. So, you know, in the first round, you kind of had these other guys die at the gas station or stuff like that. Actually, no, that would be round 2. The second round was when the gas station occurred, the hanging occurred. And then we also have the other stuff that happens when they first get to the house. And really the only 2 people that are left for round 3 are the 2 best friends.
Yeah.
Because everyone has to go 3 times.
Yep. Yeah, I was saying, like, yeah, this one is definitely more of the mean-spirited one. Like, it's along the lines of Would You Rather and the mean-spiritedness with the way its dares are.
And the dares, I think, it escalates quickly. And it's a very fast-paced film. You get there, you get a little bit of character development. They start playing the game, and the game takes up majority of the movie. I would say probably 80% of the movie is the game or related to the game. And the dares are very, very intense, very, very heavy, and tie back to some kind of guilty thing that they've done, which I do think they tried to do with the Blumhouse one. But I honestly think this film did a better job of it. And they look like teenagers in this one. Like, they look like college kids that just got into college. Yep. And I think the concept of them going to this creepy, you know, haunted house and renting it out and all this kind of stuff was just perfect. Like, I really think this is a great example of truth or dare gone bad.
Yeah, I'll say this is a very good example, especially of all the truth or dare movies that are out there. This will be the 4th one that I've seen total. And this is definitely the better of all the 4.
Nice. I've only seen this one and the Blumhouse one.
Yeah, there's one from the 80s. Never watch. It's okay. Bad. It's bad.
Okay, what was the other one that you saw?
It was like some made for TV one, I think. And it was just like almost like Lifetime. It was not good either.
Not good either. Okay. The only thing I didn't get was the ending of this. So Alex's final dare is to kill her friend, but she doesn't, and she slams into a tree. And then there's a gasp heard that indicates that there's at least one survivor.
Yep. What I took that as is because the dare was still like the timer was still going, like the entity hadn't taken over yet, like to finish off the dare. So what she was thinking was, I'll slam into the tree, that'll be us sharing the dare, like in a way, because I'm trying to kill her, but it won't kill her. But I think like just because of how fucked up her friend was, because she chopped off her friend's foot and was probably bleeding to death as it was, that I think when she hit that truck or hit the tree so hard, I think it killed her friend and she was the one left alive because the gasp sounded like it was from her.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I think ended up happening. I think she still technically killed her friend and was left alive.
Okay. Cool.
But I think what she was trying to do was trying to like either kill them both or to just try to split the dare somehow.
Interesting. It has a 0 fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on 6 reviews. Well, that's only 6 reviews. I
Wow.
don't think that's really fair. I think if more people watch this movie, they would see that it's not a bad film.
Yeah, like this
Like,
is
it's
probably
not.
one. I think it's kind of the cover. Also, I think it's one where people just skip past it because it just
Yeah.
doesn't look like it'd be that good. Like I've skipped past it for several years because I didn't think it was going to be good. And fuck me, I was surprised how good this was.
I think this is a movie that if you're looking for something to watch closer to Halloween, or you really like movies that involve games, or you liked Blumhouse Truth or Dare, I think you'll like this one too. I think you might like this one more.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yep, I'm right there with you.
So, and I think it did a good job of capturing the escalation of Truth or Dare and what can happen during that game.
Yeah, because it goes pretty. It's like you said, it starts off and then just kind of goes into it pretty quickly.
Right. Well, we've been talking about the other one, so let's get to it.
All right. So just so everyone knows, there's reasons why I'm getting the two confused. But the next one is Truth or Dare from Blumhouse, which was released April 13th, 2018. A group of friends who are lured into a game of Truth or Dare realize that the ones who lie or do not follow the rules end up dead mysteriously. The reason I'm getting this one is confused is because it's got a big group of the college type characters, just like the other one. So it's the characters all started blending in together. Right off the bat, though, the thing I was getting confused with the character, and this one, the guy that's the lawyer, going in for the lawyer interview, he is known for selling prescription drugs, which in my head tied it to the character in the other movie who was
with the prescription drugs. Yes.
That's why I was getting mixed up there.
Oh, maybe that's where she did get it from. Maybe
right, that's what I was gonna say. Like maybe it was, yeah. But yeah, this one, they're I think they're in Mexico on spring break.
Yeah, they go and this has a lot of plot development leading up to it. Like, you meet Olivia, who is this real, like, Habitats for Humanities, get back, and they convince her to go to Mexico, which is just across from the border. So they're obviously on the border of Mexico somewhere. I'm assuming California.
Yeah.
And she has a crush on her best friend's boyfriend, which is really similar to the 2017 one.
Mm-hmm.
And they go to there's a whole setup that takes like at least 15-20 minutes before you get to the actual meat of the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, and like in this one, when the game does start, like the truths are pretty much like, all right, tell us your darkest secret right away type shit. Like it doesn't give much buildup. It's just like, already we're pissing people off.
Yes.
But it's because these characters are kind of all douchey in a way and are always like kind of trying to stab at each other.
Well, and like it really sets up with like, okay, so they're in Mexico and, Olivia's best friend is Marky, who cheats on her boyfriend to the point where her boyfriend is sitting there talking to Olivia and she's making out with a guy behind him.
Yeah.
Like it's a little over the top. Anyway, so Olivia meets this guy named Carter, and Carter's like, oh man, I can keep the party going because the bar closes. They're all like, I want a party more. Like it's a typical
We're on
like
spring break.
I felt like it was like Turistas mixed with like a fucking supernatural Truth or Dare movie.
Right.
So anyway, they go to this abandoned fucking, I don't know what it was, monastery or something like that. And they play a normal round of Truth or Dare. Like they ask the questions.
Yeah.
Because everybody has to be asked. So you get your typical like dare for girl on girl option, which happened in the other one too.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of dare for girls to kiss.
That I think just happens in most Truth or Dare games.
Always,
like when they
right?
get
And like the dudes are, I don't know, like some of the stuff is just like, do you know that Olivia's in love with your boyfriend?
Yeah, like automatically just like some just like shit to just stir the drama.
And that wasn't done by the entity. That was done.
No, that was just by the
that was
characters.
for the entity, I think, to get information. I think the entity used that to be like, what is everyone here most fragile about? Because they saw with the party girl how much she likes to party. And then how much, the other guy wants to be a doctor and all this other shit, or be a doctor and all this other shit, right? So anyway, it comes out when it gets to like Carter's turn, and they're like, what's your intentions with Olivia? Where they think he's going to say something really sweet. He's like, I needed someone gullible to get to play this game because I'm okay with strangers dying if I can live.
Yeah, just like so over the top.
Right. And mind you, I still like this movie. I do find it fun.
Oh, so do I. I thought it was fun.
But the real good part of this, like, there's a lot of like waiting for the dares to build up. I find that the other one didn't take as much time.
No.
And it's hard not to compare because they both have the same names, right?
Yep, same name, very similar situation with a supernatural entity playing the game. It's just the supernatural entity in this way is taking the form of people that they know, making them hallucinate that they're smiling with these big smiles, asking the questions when they're not actually
very
doing that.
much special effects. So they come back and they're not like Evan or the Carter guys like, now you guys have to play the game, do the dare. If you get asked, do the dare, tell the truth. If you don't, you die.
Yep. And so this is where I was also confused because this is where they changed the rules with truth or dare in this, where it's 2 truths and then you're forced to do a dare.
Yes. Instead of 2 truths and a lie, they changed it. Oh, you can do 2 truths and then you have to do a dare. So, we have where Ronnie gets kills himself when he doesn't show his dick at the pool hall.
Where he slips on the billiard ball and breaks his neck.
Right. We have Olivia who gets, picks truth and blurts out that Marky's been serially unfaithful to Lucas. Marky's later on forced to break Olivia's hand. And then Brad, their gay friend, is forced to tell his father that he's gay. Like there's like, obviously it's trying to get through the first round or second round, which is like intense, but there's no limit. Like, it's not where like, okay, you got to play truth or dare for 48 hours and we'll see if you make it. It's like, you got to play truth or dare forever.
Yeah.
And ever.
And then if you're the sole survivor, you got to get others to play it.
Yeah. Like, it's a game that you're stuck in this curse, right? So which you find out later on that it is a curse and that it came from a woman who, I guess she was being molested, her and her, the other people lived in the monastery by the priest, and they summoned this spirit to help them destroy the priest. But the spirit then wanted to continue to raid darkness, so she had to cut out her tongue as a sacrifice, which is how you find out it's going to end. So I think what I liked about this movie was the sensationalist of the dares. So where I found in the other Truth or Dare movie, the dares were kind of like, I don't want to say reasonable, but like get hit by a car. That is something that you would have access to. I would get in my car, I'd run you over.
Right.
Like this one would have stuff like, walk around the roof drinking the tequila bottle till it's empty.
Yeah. And try
which is one of my favorite scenes. I think that's a really well done scene.
Yeah, it's very tense. And then there's the what was the other one? I'm trying to think.
The sex one.
Well, that one was just kind of funny. Like,
where like Olivia and Lucas have sex, and then midway through she makes him say truth or dare, who do you love more? And he says that he's in love with her best friend, not her. Like it has a lot of teenage. It's very Blumhouse.
It's very teenage angsty.
Very teenage angsty, very much so.
But yeah, and each one of these dares are like the dares and the truths are all like specifically targeted for that type of person. So like the party girl is forced to drink all the alcohol walking around the roof. The perverted asshole character, well, quote unquote perverted asshole character, which I just couldn't believe his character because I've seen him in the Goldbergs TV show and he's such a nerdy dork in that show that he was just the same character but trying to be all like perverted and asshole-ish. But he's supposed to show his dick and like just shit like that.
Yeah, I did like the one guy that was going for his interview for medical school.
Yes.
And, just one question, how long you've been selling prescriptions? And then, he refuses to tell the truth, so he stabs himself in the eyeball. Like, the deaths are really cool. Like, there's some really cool, very Final Destination feeling kind of death stuff that happens in this one.
Yeah, hell, even the opening scene with the woman that walks into the gas station and the gas teller like says truth or dare and she has to go light that woman on fire. That's just like, that's fucked up.
It is fucked up. Eventually, and of course, there's a secret that Olivia went to Marky's house. And that was a secret she'd been keeping from Marky, is that Marky's dad killed himself. And Olivia blames herself because she went to Marky's house one date when Marky wasn't there. And she ended up sitting with Marky's dad for hours drinking, which, like, anyway.
Yeah.
And then he hits on her and all this other shit. And anyway, I'm kind of sounding like I don't like it. Here's what I like about it. I like that the dares escalate. I like that, they're customized to the people that it happens to. I love how easy and calm everybody is just crossing the Mexican border, and everything seems to be fine every time that they go to fucking do this shit.
You're right.
I don't even know what the reason is when they pull up to the border and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna come over the border now. What's your reason?" Get rid of a demon. And that's where I did prefer the other one, because it was in a house that was local. It seemed a little more real.
Yeah, well, and this one I think it just went a little too over the top with the main character having so many fucking secrets against her best friend.
Oh my God, she was in love with her boyfriend, that her dad tried to make out with her, and constantly being like, "I have something else to tell you."
Yeah, it was over and over again, like, "Oh, there's just something that's going to break her heart. If I tell her this is going to break her heart," it's like, how many things are you keeping secret? You are not a good fucking friend.
Right. Anyway, eventually they all find, the guy that originally kicked open where the tongue was kept and released the spirit. They bring him back there. And they're playing this epic final game of truth or dare where they're getting basically dared to kill each other. And eventually Olivia outsmarts the demon, which I do like this part, and says truth or dare. Demon truth picks truth and is like, "Well, how can I beat the game? You can't beat the game. It will go on forever." And that's where she finds out that this is a never ending game. Like, they didn't already know that. They should have,
right,
from Carter, but that's fine. Who is also Sam, and he just changed his name. So bottom line is, she chooses, and this all ties back to the moral issue that she was asked first in the movie, which was, if you had to choose between everyone in Mexico dying or saving people in this room, who would you choose? And she's like, "I would save the people in Mexico." So as she's leaving with her friend Marky, after being told that there's no end unless she gets more players into the game, she tells Marky she chooses her, and then she makes a YouTube video that basically asks everyone truth or dare. And it reminded me of another movie we saw that did a video thing as well.
It was The Cleansing Hour?
The Cleansing Hour. I think The Cleansing Hour did it better.
Yes.
I think this was basically, you watch this video, you get asked truth or dare, you're automatically in the game. Now this demon can travel all around the world, and hopefully it's just not your turn anytime soon.
Right.
So it does give a little bit more of a concrete ending, but I do enjoy how the truth or dare game is used in this. I do think it takes too long to get to the dares, but I think some of the dares are really fucking cool, and so are the special effects. And it's just a typical Blumhouse movie.
Yep, I found this one just fun, where the other truth or dare was a little more hard to watch, not because it was bad, obviously, but no, hard to watch just because of the things they had to do to each other.
Yes.
In this one, it was just more fluffy fun, because the dares, while were inventive, they weren't just like cringe, like, "Oh God, I can't believe I'm having to do this."
Yeah.
It was very basic kind of dares compared to the other one.
Yep.
Like, if I would compare the two, I like the other one better, but this one was still fun to watch. But yeah,
well, more money was put into this one too, and they could do more with it too, right? So yeah, overall, both good applications of the truth or dare game, both escalated, which I thought was really cool. And why don't we go to our last movie?
All right. So the last movie we are talking about for this topic is Escape Room from January 4th, 2019. So this is the one that was the theatrical released Escape Room, because once again, there's a ton of Escape Room movies.
Yes, we're talking about the one that was actually released in theaters.
6 people from different walks of life participate in an escape room competition to win $10,000. Things change when they find themselves in horrifying circumstances. Man, this one, it's pretty much the game from beginning to end. There is no waiting to get into the game. Like, there's maybe 5-10 minute scene to get
you get probably
there.
About a 10-minute of introduction to characters, where we meet really only a couple of characters that we get a background for.
Yeah, and the rest of them, we get a lot more background as the movie progresses.
Like, we get a big background about Ben, we get a background about Zoe, and we get a background about Jason. A little bit about Amanda.
Yeah.
Mike and Danny, we meet in the room.
Yep, that's right. And they were two of my favorite characters, actually, Mike and Danny.
Yeah, I really liked Mike and Danny too. So basically, the concept of this is all these characters have been sent puzzle cubes by people that they quote unquote trust or know, and that they have been invited to an escape room, which has a winning prize of $10,000. So Scott, have you ever been to an escape room?
I have. I did one, strangely enough, for our accounting class. It
Nice.
was our teacher wanted to do a team building type workshop thing, so she had us do an escape room. And of course, this escape room had like 20 different ones, and there were like 4 or 5 that were horror themed. I'm like, all right, let's do the horror themed one. No one wanted to do the horror themed one. Fucking pussies.
No, of course not, right? No.
Freaking pussy bastards. But anyways, so we just did like kind of like a mobster themed one. But yeah, that was
that's one I did too.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that was I found it to be a lot of fun because yeah, you do have to work as a team because these are some challenging little puzzles in these escape rooms.
So I did an escape room as well. I did a monster themed one, and we start off in a jail, right? So they put you in this jail cell. And I remember I was obsessed that the toilet had something to do with it. And I was trying to like open up the fucking lid of the toilet and shit. And like finally someone had to come over and go, there's nothing in the toilet. Stop looking in the toilet. And you can ask for clues and stuff like that. So
that's funny. Sorry. I was gonna say because that's funny because I was the exact same way. Now with the toilet, the one that we were in, we were mobsters breaking into another mobster's house and getting a jewel that he had stowed away, and there was this pool cue that was in 2 pieces, and I was so hyper focused on this pool cue, like pool stick, because I'm like it connects together, and I'm trying to twist them together, and it wouldn't twist together. I'm going, no, these got to connect for something. There's a reason why these connect, blah, blah, blah. And like, I sat there for like 20 minutes. Someone had to come over and go, put it down. It's not necessary. I'm going, but there has to be a reason for it. Like I was so hyper-focused like you. That is kind of hilarious.
Yeah, I totally believed that this was something that we were gonna, had something to do with it. And you get it timed. I think it was an hour that we had in order to solve it. So I do like the setup for this, how they're in the waiting room, but we realize that it's not a waiting room, that it ends up being a giant oven that begins to heat up the room, right?
Yeah, because these are supposed to be immersive
escape rooms, right? And of course, they think it's like super fake. And there's some really great dialogue that happens here, right? Like, I really think Ben's character is really fucking funny. There's a line that he says to Danny when Danny's like, we should let the women get out first, or we should let her go first. He's like, dude, no one wants to have sex with you. You can like, it's just really funny.
Yeah. Which one was Ben? He's the one that
lives at the end.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always terrible with character names. I'm sorry.
Ben is the one. He continues on to Escape Room 2.
Okay.
So it is anyway. I thought that whole scene with them figuring out the coasters and the water and the cooler, and it makes a lot of sense if you've been in escape rooms. Those clues actually do make sense. But the problem is it's so immersive, right?
It's one of those, if you don't succeed in a certain amount of time, you're all dead.
Right. And you see that Amanda starts freaking out about it because of, you find out later she was from the Iraq War, and that there was a bombing and that she got burnt and other people burned to death. So they get through this room. They kind of figured it out together, and they go through like this whole strategy of the door handle falling off and this thing happening, something else happens, which is very escape roomy. Like, it was very escape room, just over the top, sensationalized. Right.
This room, I would say, is the only one that truly felt like this one and the very last room felt like true escape rooms. The other ones,
I thought all of them did.
I say the other ones didn't feel like it too much. Like, was a little especially the upside down billiard room one felt a little too
that's Hollywoodized. A little over the top. Yeah, but I think the one with the hospital beds did.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I never think of that one as an escape room for some reason, even though it is.
It is, right? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 escape rooms.
Yep.
Right. So they get into this kind of winter one, and they this is where we're finding out more of a backstory. You find out Ben killed his friends in a drunk driving accident. They were singing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and he puts it together that that's one of the clues. They go outside. It gets really cold. They're on top of ice. Danny unfortunately falls through the ice and drowns. His death is actually really sad.
Yeah, I was like, because he was one of the characters I really wanted to see make it through, because he was just that nerdy guy that's like, oh, I'm so in love with these games.
Well, and he was the one that kind of understood the game room stuff and kind of felt that it was real, fake, it wasn't really happening to him.
Yeah.
So that death is sad. And then you get a little bit more of a backstory about Jason, on how there was the same jacket. So he was in a situation where him and his friend tipped over sailing, and they were getting hypothermia, and his friend swam off, and Jason got left with the jacket and wore the jacket and stayed warm and shit like that. So they're passing this jacket around. They have to melt a key to get out of that room. The room implodes, and they go to the billiards room, which is my favorite escape room.
Yeah, that one is this is the one that I don't think was not realistic, but it was fun as hell to watch.
And yet again,
very tense.
Very tense, and some killer lines from Ben. So when they're in the Winter Wonderland and they think he's the game master. So Danny had talked about a game master, and sometimes a game master is placed in with the group to throw you off your track. And he's like, I work at a grocery store. And he's like, there's a wealth trader over here, creepy old man Mike, a fucking Iraqi vet or a war vet. And Zoe, honestly, you look like your parents locked you in your basement if you didn't do your homework. Like, he said some funny shit.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously he was written well, but his delivery of it was really funny.
Yep, him and Mike.
Him and Mike were great. Actually, all the characters are great. And you hated Jason.
Oh, he was such an asshole.
He was such an asshole. Like, you did hate him. Though he was a mixture. He did save Zoe a couple of times. Like, he did some nice things, but then when it got push came to shove,
it was all
his
about
true
himself.
Colors came out, right?
Yeah.
But he wasn't a dick throughout the entire thing. Like, he did help other people at parts.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, so the billiards room where the floor is collapsing at the end of the song, downtown, like,
when you're alone and life is making you lonely, you can always go.
And like, these intense scenes where the floor is collapsing and they're trying to figure out the clues, and of course Amanda ends up sacrificing herself so they can continue on. Like, it's just a really like intense film. Now, you watched it for the first time with a friend. Well, a friend watched it for the first time.
Yeah. I'll say this
they watched it. It was their first time.
Yep.
What did they think of it? Did they like it as much as we do?
Yes, because I actually got a message later on that night going, that escape room movie was freaking awesome. She really had a great time watching it, thought it was a lot of fun, and had some very tense scenes too. Like, because it does have some very tense scenes.
It does have some very tense scenes. So once Amanda passes, like, she sacrifices herself, she falls to her death. Obviously, our main character, Zoe, our main protagonist now, is very upset. And they get put into this room with all these hospital beds, and they realize that the people that brought them there knew everything about them. So they read Amanda and Danny's chart, and they see that all of them have something in common. They were survivors, the only survivor. So in Jason's case, he lived, his friend did not. Zoe survived a plane crash. Mike survived a mine being imploded in. Danny's family all died of carbon monoxide poisoning. He was the only one that got out. Amanda survived in Iraq. So, and then Ben survived the drinking and driving accident. So, and they had their beds and their medical history. And then they kind of, and this is where I found this escape room for me got really dark. Like, we had characters die up to this point, but this is the first time you see one character basically sacrifice another one.
Yeah, because he was thinking like the sped up heart rate was how you unlock the next door, but it was the exact opposite, where you're supposed to have a very slow heart rate. And so he was using those freaking paddles on poor Mike, was it?
Yep, Mike.
And just kept shocking him until he freaking gave him like a heart attack. Yeah.
Right. And this is where you begin to see the switch of the characters. So you see Ben's character trying to help Mike and trying to take that protagonist role, and Jason's character kind of just being like, fuck this. And so he just losing her mind and slashing all the cameras.
Yeah. Like, this is where like, was Jason, he just kind of turns almost a little too fast for me.
Yeah, he kind of went from like, he's a dick, but he's still being helpful to, he basically kills one of the players.
Yeah, because he reminded me almost of that character from Cube that was like, oh, he's kind of like a dick, and all of a sudden just out of nowhere just turns. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, right. That's actually a really good comparison. I like that escape room too. I think it's very accurate to escape rooms, and this is where you find out how dark it is. Like, now Amanda's died, Danny's died, like, they're like, we're fucked, right? So he stays behind. Ben tries to get her out. She stays. She insists on saying poisonous gas fills the room. I don't know how Zoe survived, unless she just
I think she ended up getting a hold of that oxygen mask in time.
That's what,
and like used it for a bit and then ended up passing out.
Okay.
I think that's kind of what the movie was trying to portray anyways.
Okay. And then it's Jason and Ben in this other room, and then gas gets released into that room, and it makes them all like fucked up and shit. There's one antidote. So we're reliving Jason's experience on the sailboat. Ben basically calls him out and is like, you're full of shit. I know what happened on that boat. You know, you killed your friend. And
they end up tripping out in this very trippy room, and they like just that's why they need the antidote, because they're like, literally it's like someone gave them like 10 doses of acid because everything's melting and just moving all over. And I thought the one thing that was really good about this room and Ben's accusation, it makes sense for what happened in the previous room. Yeah. Right. So Ben survives, Jason does not.
and Ben's in the final room that you'll see in the opening scene.
Yeah, which I once again forgot all about, because when I was watching the second time, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot this guy gets killed. And then I'm like, wait, no, he doesn't. He's at the end of the movie. That's
Right?
what that's the whole, like, they showed us the ending at the beginning.
And he ends up being really one of the smarter characters, right? Like he ends up being one of the ones that is actually, for someone who just works at a grocery store, as he kept saying, he's actually quite aware of what's going on.
Yeah, and he was able to figure out a lot of things pretty quickly.
Like he did a really good job of putting stuff together.
Yep, and then we get to the when he finally escapes there, it gets to the end where he gets to meet forget the guy's name.
The game master.
Yeah, the game master, which is basically just saying, oh, you're the lone survivor? You're dead. That's what he's trying to do. He's gonna kill him.
But then Zoe's like, oh no, you fucking didn't. And meanwhile, we know that she's managed to kill the 2 guards that came in to collect her from the gas room. And Zoe and him escape. They overpower the game master and they escape. And of course, when they bring the police back, there is, no proof of it. And they're like, we found your buddy had so much drugs in his system. We don't believe what you're saying. And of course, these are rich, powerful people, right? So everything's being hushed. And then we find out that they faked the death of everybody else, of how they died, which is just complete nonsense. They're even pissed off about Jason. And then they decide that they're going to go to Manhattan to basically expose these people, which of course sets up a second movie, right?
Which shows even the company testing something that they're going to be on a plane and testing it as a plane escape room.
Yeah.
Which really ties in. There will be a part 2.
Yes, right. And there is a part 2, and it's coming out this year.
Yes,
so
which I can't wait to see.
Can't wait to see it. I really love this movie. It was on my top 10 list for 2019. It was my number 10. I didn't see as many movies back then, but I think even if I had seen more, it probably would have been definitely in my top 20. I think it's a really fun film. I think it's a shame that it was released in January and everyone thinks January films are shit. It's proved to me that January films are not shit.
It's getting better. It used to be really bad, but it's getting better with like stuff that's actually getting released. And I think moving forward with the whole things changing because of COVID, I think that January won't be a dumping ground anymore.
I agree. And I think this just really captures the glow of escape rooms. I think it came out at the right time. Escape rooms are, really big, and COVID kind of shot those, unfortunately. But there's huge escape rooms around me. There's several different places that have them. And I was planning on going to a bunch when this all got shut down. I've done a virtual escape room since then. That was actually a pretty cool experience over COVID with a team building exercise. I think they're smart. I think this movie was super smart. And I would love to be in something this immersive as long as I didn't die. Like the fire thing wasn't really real. And maybe if I fell on a big mat, I'd be okay with that.
Like if there was like the whole oven thing, it just like the heat gets turned on, but it's not like cooking you, but it's just like, oh, I'm getting warm. Okay. Yeah. Or when you're in the outside, like, okay, they turned the AC on really cold. Okay. I'm really chilly.
Yeah. Right.
You're not going to die. You're not in threat of danger. Like that would be kind of cool and fun. Like that is one thing that I wanted to do with the escape room that I went to, why I wanted to do the horror themed ones. Because it was played out like a haunted house. So like while you're trying to do traps, there's or trying to figure out the escape room, there was things coming out to scare you as well.
Yeah.
And it makes it more immersive. That's why I was like, I want to do something like that because that would be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Right. So I think that this movie was just really smart on how it was created. And I think that, and it's also by the same person that did The Taking of Deborah Logan and Insidious: The Last Key.
Oh, no shit. Director. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and there's one thing I want to tie into this that kind of ties into the game that earlier from when we were talking about in the Kotaku article. But there was actually an escape room based on Magic the Gathering when I went to one of those giant Grand Prix tournaments. Yeah, like it was because it was a release for a new set. So it was based in this old old church because it was the plane they were on was kind of like a Lovecraftian horror themed, like gothic horror. So it was based in this old church, and you had like these zombie noises coming from the outside of the church, smacking on the windows to kind of just scare you a little bit while you're trying to figure out how to escape the church.
That's cool.
Yeah, I thought that so I wanted to bring that up. But yeah, that was really neat. Like I thought it was really because they built it and everything inside the area where we were playing.
That's really cool. So, yet again, shows that escape rooms are here to stay. Truth or Dare. fun little parlor games that we play as kids, simple games that you don't need anything for to play as adults, and Would You Rather.
Yeah.
I think this kind of showed that games are here to stay and that they can make some really good movies out of it. Now, I know we did not choose the big film that came out in 2019 with The Bride. What is it?
Ready or Not.
Ready or Not. And honestly, we're only doing 4 films now. We probably would have chose Ready or Not otherwise.
I have an idea for that one later.
Okay, so we probably will do Ready or Not at some point, but we didn't do it for the game, even though that is a very good game film. So I wanted to give a shout out to that.
Because I didn't even think about it for the game part. Yeah, that's a great one to think about. And
because
there's
they do
also
go through all the other games and stuff that are available.
Yep, and there's also like the ones where people get sucked into video games from the 80s and stuff like that too.
Yep.
There's all sorts
or
of
Jumanji would probably be like the easiest low hanging fruit to do, right?
But yeah, if we were doing anything that was non-horror.
Right. Jumanji was scary for a kid, I guess you could say. Or any of the Ouija board movies.
Yeah, because Ouija board movies are like playing a game. Yeah, that's true.
So, but we chose these. Those were the ones that we thought would be the most interesting to talk about. Now, for Out of Our Dark segment, as you know, we are doing different things each time. And this is, we're going to shift gears from horror, is we're going to talk about the Last Blockbuster documentary that is available on Netflix. So if you haven't seen it yet, we are going to be giving spoilers for that documentary. And it's just going to be our generalized thoughts about it, similar to what we did to Martyrs. So Scott, what did you think of the Last Blockbuster documentary?
As a documentary, I thought it was pretty good. Like, it covered a lot of the topics that that its main focus was. However, you could tell that it was kind of like they had someone asking the questions after everything was recorded. Like, they gave whoever they were interviewing the questions like on paper or something, and then they had some voiceover actor do it afterwards. You could totally tell that's what was going on. So you were
able to figure that out. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it just felt like that when I was listening to it. I'm going, it just seems almost too pre-made.
But interesting.
But I think because I think they didn't expect some of the reactions from some of the people they interviewed.
You mean like Lloyd Kaufman?
Yeah, which they should have expected. But anyways, but I thought this was a very fascinating documentary in general, just to kind of see like how far Blockbuster went from being this huge freaking VHS rental place to one store left.
Now,
and the decisions that the poor decisions that were made.
And that Netflix didn't kill Blockbuster.
Nope, that was all on the upper management, like I had guessed.
Right, you were right. And I think what I found really interesting here is people sometimes praise Blockbuster, but Blockbuster, like any corporate giant, eliminated small family video chains, and they explain why, because of how much it costs to get the rights to get new releases, and Blockbuster was able to buy more than these small video family chain places could. So they would come in and buy up places, which we saw happen here in Canada. And obviously it happened in the United States. Yeah. Because I remember not having a Blockbuster. I remember Blockbuster not being a thing. I used to go to a place called Jumbo Video.
Yeah, we had Jumbo Video.
Flicks. You guys had Jumbo Video?
Yep.
And they sold popcorn? Or not sold popcorn.
Yes.
They gave you free popcorn to walk around and choose your movie with?
Yep.
What a bitch that was probably to clean up, right?
Oh, man.
Right. And what I thought was really interesting as well is that Blockbusters did not have exotic movies.
Yeah.
Which you could argue gave more business to adult only video stores.
Nope. And Blockbuster, they were the more clean, pristine, family friendly type. And also, like, being the horror movie nerd that I've always been, their selection was always very mainstream horror. They didn't have a lot of like the stuff that you would find back in the day at the mom and pop shops.
No.
Like they would be, Asylum's Transmorphers, because like it'd be literally stuff that would be on Walmart shelves is what you'd see.
Yeah, absolutely. And
it's just that because a lot of people seem to have such high nostalgia for Blockbuster. I never really did. I went to my nostalgia was Family Video, Jumbo Video, Hollywood Cinemas, and a lot of mom and pop shops. The only memories I have of Blockbuster is my best friend Don worked at Blockbuster for 5 years right down the road from my house. Yeah. So when I was bored here one day, I would just get up and go drive down to Blockbuster, hang out with him and talk to him while he's working, and I would maybe rent a movie or a game. But that wasn't until like 2005. Yeah. And I got to watch the deterioration from the inside of how Blockbuster failed. And I was even part of their mail-in service when they were trying to compete with Netflix, where they'd mail you discs. I signed up for that just to kind of help out Don's store. And it was just dumb decision after dumb decision that brought these guys down. Netflix, coming out kind of forced them to try to make these dumb decisions, but it wasn't Netflix's fault.
No, well, Netflix tried to partner with them.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that I didn't know
And
about.
they turned
that I
them
found funny.
down.
Yeah.
And I think that most interesting thing about this documentary, I agree with you. I was a big fan of independent video stores. They definitely had more variety. I remember going to this place called VideoFlix, which like I loved, and they had a bubblegum machine. I had a hard time getting that out there for some reason. Bubblegum machine where you would put a quarter in, and if you got the black gumball, you got a free rental. And like when you got that black gumball, it was like fuck yeah. And they had one of those frequent like video rental cards that you could get, and you'd be rushing back to return the video, and that like it was a very cool experience. Now I'm going to probably piss people off with what I have to say at the end of all this, but I think that Blockbuster did something that was really commendable. They managed to market a store that you could walk into. Every Blockbuster was the same. You could find movies easily. You knew where the snacks were going to be. Everything was consistent, which is what a corporation is. And I think they mastered that as a corporation.
Yeah.
I do not have the nostalgia for Blockbuster either. I could care less about if I was in that area and their last Blockbuster was there, I would go in, but I have no interest in traveling to see it.
Yeah, and I would not be like those people going, oh my God, that brings back so many memories. I'd just be like, yep, it's a Blockbuster.
I would rather go back if someone said to me, we're going to rebuild VideoFlix or Jumbo Video, I would be more likely to do that because I have more fonder memories of that than I do of Blockbuster. Now, that being said, I think this documentary also outlined very clearly that getting rid of the late fee charge, which is where they made a lot of their revenue in terms of competing with Netflix after Netflix had already come to them and asked to partner, was the nail in the coffin, because then you wouldn't get movies coming back.
Yeah, like you never knew when movies would be back because the way they got rid of late fees, if I remember correctly, was you paid, I think, $15 a month to be a member of like the special type, and you would just be able to rent movies or rent games for as long as you wanted and return them when you were finished. And yep, that is where the nail in the coffin, because I used that for a bit because I was guilty of it. I would rent a video game and I would hold on to it for like a month and a half and go, oh shit, I got to return that at some point.
Right? Like already you have issues with library stuff not being returned, and that's small fish.
Yeah.
And I think what really people don't want to admit this, but the reason why digital is easier is, or the reason why digital is still standing, Netflix ended up becoming more popular, is because it's easier. And I know we all want to live in this world where we think people want to go to a video store. They don't.
No.
Because if they did, they would all still be here.
Exactly. Like I'm gonna say it now. Like seeing all the family videos closed down last year, like, and how many people were like really sad about that. I'm going, like, you and I were talking about it, but it's like,
sad, but
sad to see it go because it's just an end of an era. But at the same time, how many of these people that were showing how sad they are actually went to family video and helped them out?
And the thing is, if you want to run a video store now, where there's a market is the hard to find films. And we talked about two of them already, Solo and the Serbian film.
Yeah.
You could have just a video store that had films that are difficult to get from streaming, and you would get business. You would get people that would travel to get that, because I know this. I looked for a fucking guitar for Guitar Hero and was willing to travel an hour away from my house in order to get it. So if I really wanted to find a movie, and I knew Toronto, which still does like have those video rental stores and stuff like that, small independent ones, but they specialize in things and they have that specialized experience. The reality is the basic white bitch stores like Blockbuster of video stores isn't needed now, because I can get the basic bitch movies through Netflix, Prime, Shudder, or VOD in general, or Vudu, or Tubi, or Hulu, like Crave in Canada. Like there's just so many options that people be like, oh, I miss it. Yeah, you may miss it in nostalgia, but the reality is you don't miss going to return a film. You don't miss going there and hoping that there's going to be a copy of that film there and it not there and being disappointed.
And you don't miss going up to the register, getting ready to rent a movie, and they going, all right, you have a $10 late fee.
Right. Exactly.
Like, there's all these it was the rental stores like that were for a time and era that
For
was that
basic
made
bitch
sense.
rental stores. I think yet again, specialty video stores,
Yeah,
like
'cause
that's different.
Yeah, 'cause that's why I did like Family Video. Because Family Video, not only were their rentals cheap, because you could rent $5 for 5 nights with a lot of movies. And they also, once a new release comes out, they get hundreds of copies of them or whatever. When that's not a new release anymore, they'll put them up for sale for like dirt cheap, and you can just go in there and
Yep.
buy them up there. And
Yep,
I think
absolutely.
that's how come Family Video was still around
Lasted.
all the way till 2020.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
and there's still a few that are still standing. Like, I think everyone around me has finally shut down, because last year at this time, there was 3 within a half-hour driving distance of me. One east, one north, one south. They were
Which was
so
pretty
close.
good.
Yeah. And I could go to either one of them, and any one of them, and find some like harder to find horror films, and I'd buy up a bunch of them, or I'd rent a bunch of them. And I'd do the same with video games. Like, but yeah, like that is why they still stood, because they had a wider selection. They also had the exotic beaded curtain rooms. They had a variety of everything, and they also evolved with the times as much as they could. Like, hell, they were even selling CBD oil.
They were not just selling your basic bitch. Oh wow, look at the new Marvel movie that came out.
Right.
Like,
they would have copies there, but there'd be also everything else.
There'd be other things that you can't find other places, international films that you can't find other places. So I'm not arguing that the video store is gone the way of the dodo bird. I don't think that at all. I just don't think you can open a Blockbuster chain, and there's a reason why it's gone. It's because it's too basic films, basic viewing, traditional experience that you can now get from a Netflix, Prime Video, VOD, and even VOD has a limit of rentals too. You order something, the moment you start watching it, you have 48 hours to finish it. Right? So there is still that concept of a time constraint. But it's convenient because I'm at home.
Right, exactly.
And the other thing they said in this series that I don't agree with was they said, well, people want to talk to a human person because that can establish your tastes.
No.
That's what algorithms are for. So if Netflix sees what I watch continuously, they're going to recommend other movies that meet that. That's what technology does.
Yeah.
Same with Facebook ads, same with everything else. Now, if I want somebody to give me specialized information on specific international horror films, one, I can go to Facebook. But if I didn't want to do that, and I did have a specialized horror book or horror movie rental store that also sold other horror stuff, and it was all like really deep-seated shit, I would go there and be like, hey, I need to watch uncomfortable films. I don't want to just watch a Serbian film and other low-hanging fruit. Give me the best you got.
Yeah. What else do you recommend?
Right. That I would definitely do. Absolutely. That is not something you're going to get from algorithms and that you're going to need to get a face on face. But your basic, you liked this romantic comedy, you're probably going to like this other basic bitch romantic comedy, can be easily done from algorithms.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So
like, I will say right now, my Amazon algorithm is very fucked up with all the films I've watched for our podcasts and shit.
Right. And so yet again, I'm not trying to take away the nostalgia from video stores. I think video stores are a lot of fun. I just think sometimes people get to like, oh, Blockbuster was the best. And that's the only thing that drove me crazy with this documentary.
Yes,
I was like,
that's
no,
the
they
same thing
took
I
out
thought.
like a whole bunch of mom and pop video stores. And then eventually a bigger dog came and took them out because they refused to adapt with the times.
And that's what it should be. Nostalgia is
right?
Looking back fondly on the past. And that is what you should do. That is what nostalgia is. Don't say, oh, you miss Blockbuster. Blockbuster bullshit. No.
Right.
You miss the mom and pop shops.
Yes.
Like,
right.
Like, especially if you're horror fans like us, Blockbuster didn't have shit. Like, they had some.
Yeah.
Like, come on now.
Absolutely. No, I think the general moviegoer may miss going to Blockbuster and walking around, and that was a date. Like, they've outlined it perfectly. You would go there, argue over what movie to rent a movie, take it home. I get the whole, experience thing that they're talking about, but clearly consumer habits have showed us that wasn't what people wanted. Because Blockbuster did have a mail-in service that was doing quite well and an online service. It was their shitty mismanagement of the company that led to them downclining.
Yeah.
And even with the Blockbusters remaining, I look at that one, and probably the reason why it's still going is one, that lady obviously has some good customer service skills. Maybe the internet in that town isn't that great. Everyone works there or has worked there. It's obviously a very small place. And it's now the last Blockbuster. I went to their website. They have tons of merch that you can buy. And
I'll
I'm
say, like-
sure people will buy that, especially after seeing this documentary.
Yep, because I was gonna say this documentary is gonna help them stay afloat for a while longer, just because of the nostalgia factor. I mean, hell, even in the documentary, we heard people saying, "Oh, we drove from California. How long did that take you? 15 hours just to come here." I'm going, "Okay, you're nuts."
Right. And if that's what you want to do, like, rock on. But I think also what she's done that is smart is she goes to Target and other places and buy random films.
Yes,
That's where she's getting the selection that you can't. And she even said, we find stuff that you can't get from streaming. She's smart. That's how you keep a video store going.
She's doing exactly what should be done.
Right.
That's just why like, it's still afloat.
In Toronto, you can still go into The Beat Goes On, independent record stores. So Toronto's the major city I live near. And they have records, like physical records and tapes and all that kind of stuff and CDs, because there's still a market for them. But they're selling individualized stuff that, maybe I really want the artwork on that CD, or, Cinema One's a big video selling chain, like I should say physical media chain. And they're stood the test of time. Why? Because they get shit that you can't get streaming.
Right, exactly.
Right? And that's where it comes down to. And I think the ones that have adapted, like, you have your basic bitch stuff that you can get from fucking Netflix or Amazon or whatever, but hey, we got this, and you can't get this online. The only way to watch this is to watch the Blu-ray. That's where the money comes in.
Yep, exactly.
Right?
Like, it's just kind of like, that is the way of things now.
Right. So I did enjoy this documentary. I did think it was nice to see what the video chain was. I would like to see more on independent video stores, because I feel like Blockbuster ate them up, and then Blockbuster got ate up, because their time to independent video stores time to shine would have been now, or could be now, with, independent films, if they can get the films that are, cult classics or whatever, geared to a specific group, and sell other items and build that business.
Yep, exactly.
Minus not being COVID times, right? Because we're also fucked over that you can't have the experience, because there's still comic book stores and stuff like that available too.
Very few around my area now, which is kind of shocking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think there's only one comic book shop.
We have like 5 near me. I'll have to take you when you come up.
Yeah, because I don't even go to it anymore. But we have hobby shops where all the magic, all the game stuff is. But yeah, we don't have any comic book shops near us anymore, unless like some opened up that I never knew about. But most of the ones I knew about closed down.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think it's because comic books are also kind of on the way out, because once again, digitally, they can be read.
And I don't know why people get mad about digital stuff. Like, I find that really... Don't worry, there's still physical media available that you can order and have.
And it's the way of the future, and it's just easy. I like it.
It is, and there's less waste. But I don't think physical media in our lifetime will ever go away.
Nope.
Personally, in our lifetime is all I can say to that. But
yeah, and I forget which podcast said it. But there was a podcast I was listening to. Oh, I think it might have been Exploding Heads on episode 139. Christian said, "I can see once everything comes out in 4K, we won't see any other new physical format after that. Like, everything will just be 8K streaming. But the physical format will stop at 4K. But that's not to say, because there's so much fucking content out there to be made in 4K that could go on for long fucking time before that well's dried up.
Absolutely. So check it out. It's a good documentary. It's interesting. I think it's great that Netflix put it on, and they look like the ones that... And who knows? I do believe, though, that Blockbuster had the chance to buy Netflix. It makes a lot of sense that Netflix, as a little baby company, would have come out and said, hey, let's work together. And Blockbuster was probably like, go fuck yourself. I absolutely believe that.
I'm a big fish. You're a tiny little fish. Fuck off.
Absolutely. And, look where we are now. So.
And Lloyd Kaufman is rolling, laughing around, just laughing at the demise of it.
Lloyd Kaufman is an angry man. So let's just put it that way.
And it's funny because he is one of the most friendliest guys I've ever met. But yeah, if you bring up Blockbuster, he has some sore spots.
Oh man, he's a lot to say. So our next episode is very exciting.
Yes.
We don't usually do franchises because we do themes. And there's a franchise that is near and dear to Scotty and I's heart. And we had to be ethical and find a way to do this franchise. So, we believe in premonitions of death and, belief that things could possibly happen and you could see the future and not change it. So we are going to be doing all 5 Final Destination films.
Yes.
Next time.
Yay.
On Friday Nightmares.
I can't wait.
These are some of my favorite horror films. Even which one is it? The fourth one?
Yeah.
Yeah, even the fourth one.
Like I still like the fourth one, but it's definitely the weaker of the
It's
series.
the weakest one of the series, but
They're just so fun.
They are so fun, and I cannot fucking wait to talk about them.
And I get to tell my story about part 2, like how that movie fucked me up and why it fucked me up.
It's going to be really good times here on Friday Night Nightmares.
Yeah, it's gonna be so much fun.
So please join us next time. As always, thank you for joining us. And please go to Legion Podcast Network and hit the subscribe button so you can listen to our show along with all the other awesome shows on the Legion Network. And if you're not a Patreon of the Legion Network yet, what are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for?
What are you
waiting for?
That's us trying to get you to be a Patreon. Please join us. Join us. Yeah, and it's only $3 a month, and you get content from Scotty and I monthly, as well as Mr. Bo Ramsdell, as well as other Legion friends.
Yes, because even more shows are joining the Patreon page to give us some new content.
Give it up, you know.
Give it up for it, yeah.
We want you to give it up for the show. So we'll see you next time when we talk about Final Destination. But until then, what do you have to say to the good people, Scotty?
Well, first, I have something to say to you, Heather.
Oh.
Would you rather record with me for another 5 hours or go out and get hammered?
Get hammered.
That's the question. That's the answer I was hoping for. All right. So until next time, everyone, unpleasant dreams.
See ya. Truth or dare.
Dare.